Welcome everyone. Happy World Vegan Day. I'm gonna give one more minute for people to enter the room and then we'll get started. We have over 200 people registered for today. It's just gonna take a minute for everyone to sign in. So happy to see all of you here. All right, let's get started. Welcome to the Global Vegan Hospitality and Tourism Conference. I'm Meredith Marine. I'm happy to say Happy World Vegan Day to everyone. I hope that you are celebrating in your own way and that this gathering of vegans, of non-vegans, of everyone here coming to celebrate the hospitality industry becoming vegan friendly, that this can also be part of your celebration. I want to introduce you to our global team at Vegan Hospitality. So like I said, I'm Meredith Marine. I'm currently zooming in from the Caribbean island of Aruba. I'm the founder and CEO of the company. We also have Hayley zooming in from South Africa. She's our COO. Hayley, maybe you can give us a wave. And Sophie in France, who's our Director of Partnerships. And Sophie will be moderating today, so you'll hear her speaking in between speakers, introducing everyone. And we also have over 100 trained vegan hospitality consultants all over the world. You'll see some of their pictures down below on the screen. Vegan hospitality is the highest standard for professional vegan hospitality training and certification worldwide. This means that when we work with clients, we make sure that they check all the boxes to make sure that the experience for the vegan guest is a high impact one, high impact for their business and high impact for the customer. We have the first and only certification programs for vegan hospitality management and vegan hospitality consultant training. And we have the largest network of vegan hospitality consultants across the globe. Our mission is to make the vegan lifestyle accessible and acceptable worldwide by helping hospitality professionals successfully and confidently serve their vegan guests. Accessible meaning we want to make sure that anyone who wants to choose to eat a vegan meal when they're going out to eat has access to do so, and acceptable meaning that their requests are normalized. So how do we accomplish our mission? Well, we do this through high impact hospitality consulting, and we do this through individual customized client work with industry professionals. We train and we certify vegan hospitality consultants all over the world to start their own businesses, helping local restaurants and hotels to become vegan friendly. We hold conferences like this one. This is our first of what we hope will be many conferences to bring thought leaders together in the industry to push this plant forward agenda into the future of the hospitality industry. And we also have certification programs for hospitality executives, which you're welcome to go to our website and learn more about. And we'll be talking about it today as well. We also have projects with mission-aligned partners with vegan organizations. So how did all this get started? Well, I started many years ago as a hospitality consultant in Aruba and in the Caribbean, and you'll see that it really took off. In a few years, Aruba became the most vegan-friendly Caribbean island with most vegan-friendly restaurants per capita. And I took that success globally to start training people to do that in their own communities. And now we are operating in over 25 countries.
We are excited to share that hospitality communities are transforming, and to share just a few of our success stories. We have transformed hospitality businesses in multiple different countries, some of which have won awards since working with us. We have presented and spoken at seminars across the globe, and we have trained over 100 consultants to do this work since 2019. We are currently working on mission-aligned partnerships, such as supporting Vegan Friendly USA with their network. Veganuary is an annual challenge that promotes and educates about veganism, encouraging people to follow a vegan lifestyle for the month of January. Their most recent survey found that dining out was the #1 obstacle stopping people from staying vegan, and we really need to overcome this challenge that people are facing. Restaurants and customers both agree that adding plant-based options is important. And this shows us that it is not just a trend, but a fast-growing movement. We are especially excited about today's event, reaching people from all over the world, both in our expert speaker lineup with 7 different countries being represented today. And we have over 175 people registered from all over the world, reaching 39 plus countries. We're really excited to have you all here. And we're hopeful that you'll learn a lot from today's speakers. And remember that the impact is in the action that you take. And we would love for you to follow up with us after the conference so that we can support you in making changes for your businesses, your customers, and for your communities.
Now we'll go over to Sophie, who's going to share some logistics about the conference and introduce our first speaker.
Hi, everyone. So just a few logistical things before we get started with our first speaker. So everyone, apart from the speakers, are on mute. This will remain so during the entire conference. We won't have time for direct Q&As after everyone's presentation, but please feel free to put any questions you might have for speakers in the chat. And after the conference, we will be submitting all questions to the speakers and be sending out a PDF file with all the answers to the questions that came up in the chat. Also, Angelica is in the chat, so we'll be there to help you if you have any technical difficulties. So please feel free to use the chat for that. So first, we're going to start with Antonia, who's going to be our first speaker. She's from Germany, and she's going to be telling us all about how to map the vegan guest journey. So over to you, Antonia.
Thank you. I will just start to share my screen. Can you already see it? Can you give me a feedback?
Not yet.
Okay, wait. So it should be working now. Can you give me feedback?
Yep, it's up. We can see it. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Now you should have it in big. Is it correct?
Yep, it's up. We can see it. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so thank you, Sophie. Like you said, I'm Antonia. I'm a vegan hospitality consultant from Germany. And just a little information to start. My younger child's play date canceled at short notice. That means my daughter is next door, and even though I gave her all her Halloween candy, of course anything can still happen. Just so you know, I guess that's life as a working mom, but I think we will be good for the next 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, so as you can see, today I'm going to talk about mapping the vegan guest journey. And it's not a question anymore of if, but when and how we implement a plant-based offer. And when we talk about the implementation, for example, the how, the potential of most hotels and restaurants, I'm sorry, is not yet really exploited to become truly successful with their offer. So my goal today, I want to help you realize where you can optimize your processes in your hotel or restaurant. So let's go. So the term guest journey, yeah, just so we are all on the same page. The term guest journey refers to the journey of a potential customer. And through various contact points, they are so-called touch points with a product, with a brand, with a company. until the guest performs the desired target action. So it can extend over several hours or days, or, and it's very important in the hotel and business, it can even be weeks. So common target actions are, of course, purchases, bookings, or inquiries. A touch point really is any type of point of contact. So for example, from classic advertising to online marketing measures, to the opinion of a friend or information on rating portals, and the contact with the product. So in your case, the hotel stay or the restaurant stay itself. Okay, yeah. So the guest journey must be viewed holistically in order to make the important decisions. The guest journey map really helps you to develop a successful solutions for vegan guests. And it also helps you to solve the problem of the vegan guests by offering your hotel as the solution. And it helps you that your vegan guests also makes the right decision. For this, the vegan guest must know that this solution really exists, including characteristics and advantages of your solution. And it also helps you to identify customer needs, bring about booking decisions, visualize internal hurdles and deficits. So it's really about what do we offer now and what do vegan guests actually need to make booking decisions, to feel comfortable during their stay, to share good reviews with their network, on the booking pages, and achieve customer loyalty and to book again. So this is what we really want to achieve with this kind of tool to visualize this. Yeah, the touch points of a vegan customer journey, they require new thinking, because vegan offers are often concentrated only on the F&B area. So however, this is often obscured by other touch points. In addition, there are other important touch points outside of this, but I will talk about this now. I always say the touch point F&B and kitchen is the basis. So you need an attractive offer, of course, and then we can look at all the other important touch points to become really successful. So as we can see in the picture, can you see my mouse? I hope so. We have here, you can see one touch point during stay. So during the stay, when we go and zoom in during the stay, the first thing your vegan customer is doing, he's approaching probably the front desk. And what can happen when your customer is going to the front desk? They can ask questions. And if your front desk might not be able to answer the questions or give information about the vegan offering, the vegan food, then this can lead to a customer that is feeling insecure, for example. And what often happens is that the process of the communication between front desk and, for example, the service or the kitchen is not optimal. So there can happen a lot of mistakes that can be avoided if you really look at this touch point front desk, and then you can see how is your customer feeling in this touch point front desk. And of course, what's important is that every person that is working in the front desk, for example, is able to answer the questions or is able to deal with the needs of your vegan customers. Because often maybe your vegan customers might be insecure because they have had bad experiences before, or they want to know something about the room or the food. And you can minimize all these mistakes that are happening in this touch point by training, for example, your front desk. So after the front desk, your vegan guests probably go to the room. The room is also a touch point during the journey of your guest. And this touch point is also a little bit different than being a traditional customer. Because, for example, maybe your room has some chocolate on the bed, yeah? Then the first thing your customer is thinking, oh, that's nice. But a vegan customer thinks in the next second, oh, that's chocolate, it's nice, but can I eat it? Do I want to eat it? So it's different. And the effect of the surprise might be different because your customers is not feeling safe because they're not sure if they can eat it. And the same is happening with the minibar. So you see, the touch point room has also different kind of touch points within, and the minibar might not be vegan. So what you can do is, for example, you have trained the housekeeping. So you want to be vegan, more vegan friendly, then the touch point room can be seen differently. So for example, you buy vegan chocolate for your customers, or you stock the minibar with vegan items. Of course, what you can do with all your hotel rooms is that you make everything vegan from the beginning. So your housekeeping doesn't need to think about all this all the time, because sometimes if the process is not perfect, it might be different in the communication. And of course, another thing, another touch point when we go further is the touch point wellness. So it doesn't even need to be, you don't need to have a wellness area, but of course it's the same. It all depends on the amenities. What about the soap? What about the shampoo? Or when you have a wellness area, what about the for example, the cosmetics, the nail polish, etc. So this is also a touch point where you can look at, and you can think about, how is your customer, your vegan customer, feeling? Are their needs fulfilled, for example? And so you see, it's not only the F&B area. There is a lot more to think about when we are looking at the touch point during stay, for example. And a big touch point during the stay is, of course, also the service staff. So when your vegan customers go to your restaurant, if maybe you have a restaurant, not a hotel, and your vegan customer enters your restaurant, there are different things that can be different than being a traditional customer. And it starts with the service and or with the menu. So if the menu might not be as vegan friendly as you thought because the communication is not as good, for example, you don't have pictograms, or you have items that are listed, or allergies that are listed, the customer has to ask the service staff. And there's the touchpoint service staff. Can your service staff, are they able to really answer the questions of your customers? Is the service staff aware of the difference between vegan, between vegetarian, between gluten-free? What about allergies? So there can happen a lot of mistakes, and your customers could feel insecure. They can feel not welcomed. And this leads to a customer that is not as happy as it could be to be very happy and satisfied, and who wants to come back to your restaurant or your hotel. And also your service staff feels insecure because they might want to go to, they might have to go to the kitchen and ask, and then they have to come back. So there can happen mistakes because they might give false information, etc. So these are just some touch points during stay that might be important for you to know. so your customers can feel better in each touch point. That's my goal today. So I hope, yeah, you can visualize a little bit that it's not only about the food, it's just the basis. Yeah, understanding the vegan guest journey offers more differentiation potential. So the guest journey begins long before the actual booking is made. It's also called the pre-phase, and there's even a pre-phase, but I'm just talking about the pre-phase today. And one of the touch point pre-phase is the search. And the search has many other touch points. For example, when your vegan guest decides to go on holiday or decides to eat something, then they probably use the Google search. The thing is, your vegan customer is not searching in the way your traditional customer is searching. So your vegan customer is not searching vegan hotel in Munich, for example. It's not searching hotel in Munich, sorry. It's searching vegan hotel in Munich or vegan offers in Munich, or it's searching vegan food in Munich. So the approach is different, and this is important for you to know, because you need to you can optimize the search habits and you can react, because when you have an attractive offer, you also can change your wordings for your Google search. This also is important for your website. Many vegan people, or I would say most of the vegan people I know, they are always looking at the website. Do I find any information on the website about the food? Is there anything about vegan in the restaurant section, for example? So here's something that traditional people don't do. Maybe traditional guests are looking at the restaurant, on the restaurant page. Maybe they want to know if you offer breakfast, or they want to know what's the menu, but they are not specifically looking for vegan items. And it's a criteria, of course, for vegan guests to find something vegan. So if you offer something vegan, please open the door for all your customers, because then they know. You can give them a good feeling by letting them know that you offer something vegan. It's very important also for hotels, not only on the website, but also on the booking portals, for example. The same is social media. Social media is, it's like window shopping. When I am curious about a hotel, for example, in Munich, and I find this hotel to be nice, and maybe I find something about veganism about it, I am going to look at social media. Your vegan guest is going to look at your social media and trying to find more information. Maybe you have a vegan pictures or a vegan highlight. So invite all your guests, make them feel secure that you have an offer that is attractive. So this is very inviting, because people always want to make sure that they have a good experience with during the stay at your hotel or your restaurant. Yeah, and like I said before, this also is working, or should be noted, for the booking portals. Reservation agents or even chatbots can be optimized with questions for vegan food, for example. So all about this is just to give you an idea that every single touch point might be a little different for your vegan customer. And how can you systematically understand the guest journey and use it for your hospitality business? Okay. So guest journey maps visualize the customer experience across different touch points, together with what the customer does, things and, most important, feels about your place and every single touch point. So it focuses more on the superficial customer experience and shows less details of the service process. So it's just really give you an overview, how is my customer feeling? So if you have created a guest journey map, you know how your vegan guests feel in different situations. So if you see here down on the bottom, this could be a vegan guest journey map. It's just a table, a chart from Excel. You can make different phrases, so pre-stay, during stay, after stay, post-stay. And then you can list all your different touch points. And for example, like I said before, the touch point search, you have Google, you have website, you have social media, and so on and so on. And then you can have a list about all the touch points, and then you can decide, how is my customer feeling? So you have the opportunity really to optimize these processes with this guest journey map. And for the optimization of these processes, there are, of course, also tools, with which I work, but I cannot, unfortunately, not go into further detail with this today. But I think the first step really is, what you can do is do a vegan guest journey map, so it's not so intuitive anymore. Yeah, for me, it is important to me that you take these 3 things with you today. So how does your vegan guest feel in every touch point? Does your guest have happy smiley, so smiley, or a sad smiley? That's very important. Where and how do I shape my vegan guest's experience? And remember, internal processes must be coordinated with each other. Yeah, it's like the front desk can communicate with the kitchen, the service, etc., etc. And yeah, I hope I was able to give you a little insight into how you can no longer just act intuitively, but how you can really take the quality of your processes into your own hands by creating this guest journey map, by creating and knowing how does my guest really feel when my guest is coming to my restaurant, visiting my restaurant, or staying at my hotel. Yeah, I'm not really sure what time it is. I think I was a little bit fast today, but I'm really looking forward to stay in contact with you all. I will be at the networking session later, so you can ask me questions there, of course, or as you know, we will also collect all the questions and get back to you in a PDF paper. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you so much, Antonia. Thanks for sharing your insights for the vegan guest journey. That was really interesting. So I'm going to hand it straight over to Meredith, who's going to be talking on the second session today. Off you go, Meredith.
Hi, everyone. Just going to share my screen. I hope you're all having a wonderful day so far. I know some of you have had a long day already, and some of you, it's just the morning. For me here, it's still morning. It's 10 a.m. Here we go. All right, I am super excited to talk about this topic because it is one of the things I'm most passionate about, is helping hospitality businesses figure out if their restaurant needs a vegan menu. Now, spoiler alert, my answer is usually yes, but I'm going to help you figure out how to determine that and really get clear on what it means to have a vegan menu and how you can go ahead and get started today with that. So what is a vegan menu? Well, I'm not just talking about having vegan options on your traditional menu. I'm talking about having a separate document that is printed or is accessible via your website or a QR code that is specifically designed for vegan guests. So this can be a page of your traditional menu, a full page that's included in a menu book, or it can be an actual separate document. Ideally, vegan dishes on the vegan menu are nutritionally balanced and satisfying. So we're not just talking about having a penne marinara with some vegetable scraps thrown in. We really want to think about the fats, the carbohydrates, the proteins. We want to think about how your customer is going to feel satiated after leaving your restaurant. Also, these dishes should be prepared on kitchen equipment that avoids cross-contamination with animal-sourced ingredients. So if you currently have a menu that is listing French fries as vegan-friendly, for example, and they're being fried in the same deep fryer as your chicken nuggets, those are not actually vegan-friendly, according to many vegans who are going to eat at your restaurant. So we want to make sure that when we are making these vegan menus, that we have everything become vegan friendly, including the equipment that the ingredients are made on. And vegan menus don't just need to be designed for daily use, although they could be. You can also have a special vegan holiday menu. We see vegan Christmas menus, vegan Thanksgiving menus, vegan Valentine's menus. Anytime you are creating a special menu for your traditional customer, you also want to think about the vegan customer and make sure that they don't feel left out. Especially if you're a hotel, you have vegan customers staying at your hotel and you're announcing a special promotion for a holiday. Think about what your vegan customers are going to be eating that night, whether they stay at your establishment or they leave the hotel premises is really up to you and what you're able to offer them. And when we talk about vegan menus, we're not even just talking about food menus. There are now vegan drinks menus that are becoming increasingly popular because of people realizing that there are a lot of non-vegan ingredients in drinks, as well as in the processing of alcoholic drinks and mocktails. I want to highlight two examples of vegan menus that I worked on. So the first one on the left side is from the Bakuti and Tara Beach Resort in Aruba. This year on TripAdvisor, they were named #1 in the Caribbean, #1 hotel, and number 25 in the world. So this is an incredible resort. This was several years ago that we made this vegan menu. What you see here in the picture is the vegan lunch menu. And this resort is also the first in the Caribbean to be a certified carbon neutral resort. They are not a vegan resort. They are a vegan-friendly resort. And that is something to consider, that you don't need to be a vegan hotel or a vegan restaurant to have a vegan menu. You just need to have vegan customers, which everybody has. Everybody has vegan customers. And if you don't have them today, then that means they're choosing to go somewhere else that has vegan options for them. The other menu I want to highlight is from a restaurant called Fishes and More. So when I started working with them as a consultant, we said, well, we have fishes, right? You have a fish menu. What is the more? Let's talk about the more. And so we named this vegan menu the More Menu. And I want to highlight this because it's important to note that you don't always have to call your vegan menu the vegan menu, although you can. But there are a lot of great terminology to discuss vegan options. You can call it a plant-based menu. You can call it the More Menu. You can play around with the theme of your restaurant. What's really important, though, is that you have disclaimers or information on your menu that explains what is in the food, labeling, proper labeling. And we do have people who are going to speak more on that subject today. So this particular menu with Fishes and More, you'll see that it is vegan and gluten-free. And you'll see that the size of the menu is actually pretty small. So we have 2 appetizers, we have 3 main courses and 1 dessert. And this menu is very successful. Despite its size, it is extremely successful. It's been around now for 5 years and people rave about this food. So you may be thinking, is your restaurant ready for a vegan menu? Well, we need to consider that. It's a really important question that every restaurant and hotel should be asking themselves now. Why make a separate vegan menu rather than just adding more plant-based dishes throughout your existing menu? This is probably the most common question I get asked when I talk about vegan menus. So we're going to get into this for the remainder of my presentation and really answer this question in detail. And then finally, what should the vegan menu look like? How do you get started with putting one together? So 3 signs your restaurant is ready. And if you answer yes to any of these, then it's time to get started right away. So number one, maybe you're already receiving requests for vegan or vegetarian meals. Customers are asking for dish modifications, meaning maybe they're ordering a salad and requesting it without the cheese. They're ordering the pasta without the cream sauce. And if you aren't sure whether your guests are requesting these things, it's important to speak with your servers because they may not be communicating these requests in the volume that they're coming in to the managers, to the owners, but they may be getting these requests every single day. You may speak to your hosts or the people that are answering the phone and taking reservations because customers may be asking these questions on the phone and they may be choosing not to even come into your door because of the answers they're receiving. If your company values are things like innovation, forward thinking, sustainability, maybe health consciousness, if you consider your establishment trendy or customer-centered, these are good enough reasons to include your vegan guests with the same quality and thoughtfulness as you've included your traditional guests. Finally, another way to tell if your restaurant is ready for this is to look around at your competition. Who else in your neighborhood, even on your same block, your same street, do they have vegan menus? Do they have vegan options? Are they promoting those options? And how successful are they with them? This is what we do also as consultants. We make sure to do our market research. If we're working with a client, we want to make sure that they are going to be ahead of their competition in their specific community. So this is something that a lot of our clients haven't really thought about until they start working with us. And this is what tips a lot of people over the edge to hire a vegan consultant because they've realized what an expensive problem this is to have, that they are actually losing money by not being prepared to serve vegan guests properly. So if you look at this infographic, you have 0 vegan guests when you currently have no vegan options and you're turning away guests. So if someone calls for a reservation, asks about vegan options and is told, well, our chef could probably make something out of the vegetables in the kitchen, then they are potentially choosing not to come to your restaurant because you're not prepared to serve them. And when you have 0 vegan guests and you have empty tables, you are having empty seats, empty checks, right? You're having money that could be in your pocket that is not coming into your restaurant. So let's do a quick, simple example. Let's say you have 10 empty seats each day that could be filled by vegan guests. And of course, not just vegan guests. They're not all coming to eat alone. They have dining companions. They're bringing their partners. They're bringing their friends. They're bringing their families. They're bringing groups of people sometimes. So 10 is a pretty conservative estimate. So let's say you have 10 seats that could be filled. The amount of extra seats you could fill in a year, in a hypothetical world where you every single day are open, then you've got over 3,000 seats to fill. Over 3,000 seats you're missing out on. And what that equates to, if your average guest spends just $30 at your restaurant, is over $100,000. So really think about that. This is an expensive problem to have if we are not preparing to serve vegan guests. We are losing money, but the good news is this is preventable. So you all are in a position to change this and to make it better for your business. So why offer a vegan menu? Why have this separate document, this separate page? Well, it's not the only way to attract vegan guests. And of course, we have other speakers speaking about different ways to attract vegan guests. So we want to also make sure that you understand that when we work with a client, we evaluate their goals, their vision. We make sure that whatever choice we're making around menu design, around recipes, is specifically designed for you according to your market and your goals. But one really compelling reason to offer a vegan menu is simply if your goal is to become vegan friendly, because vegans love to be able to order from a vegan menu. And we're going to talk about why. Now, if you ask a vegan, would you prefer a vegan menu or would you prefer to see vegan options on the main menu? Many vegans will tell you, well, we want them on the traditional menu because we don't care about ourselves. You know, we're so selfless. So we just want to see everyone ordering these plant-based options, right? So I want to assure all the vegans out there that we want these options to be accessible to everyone and that we work with clients in a way that makes sure that these options are accessible to everyone while also having a really high quality experience for the vegan customer. So why? Why do we need to offer this separate vegan page or menu? Well, number one, a big obstacle that we hear from clients of why they're not offering vegan options is because they don't want to reprint all of their menus. It is a big hassle. It's an extra cost to reprint all of these menus. If you have 75 seats, you're reprinting 75 menus just to offer a couple of vegan options. And that becomes a barrier. So what we can do is remove that barrier by creating a separate page that can be printed immediately. You don't have to wait until it's time for a menu update. You can print this menu as soon as your vegan options are ready, and you don't even need to print 75 of them. You can print 15, and you can have a sign right at the host stand that says, please ask to see our new vegan menu. We're really excited about it. And that way, whoever is asking to see it will have access to that menu until your next menu update when you're able to reprint. When you offer a vegan menu, guests do not have to ask questions. They don't have to wonder if the dishes are labeled properly. What happens when you're integrating plant-based dishes into a traditional menu with labels? You are making a lot of opportunities for mislabels to occur. And all of you vegans out there, I'm sure you've experienced a mislabeled menu. And what happens in that case is you completely lose trust for the rest of the menu when one dish is mislabeled. The opportunity for mislabeling is so great when menus are updated, because we're sending these menus to a graphic designer who doesn't know anything about the food, of what should be in the food or what labels should go on which dishes. And it's so easy to mislabel these dishes when the chef is not the one who's actually designing a menu. So we have menu keys that become mislabeled or obsolete in menu updates. We have small issues that are not corrected because of the high cost of reprinting everything. And really one of the best ways to do this properly is to have a separate page that has low risk, low cost, and guests don't have to ask, is this vegan? Is this truly vegan? Because it's literally on a page that says vegan menu, and vegans will feel more confident in knowing that you know what you're talking about as a restaurant, that you've been trained or you've taken that extra care to serve vegan guests properly and checked all your ingredients because you've actually created a vegan menu to attract vegan guests. Triggers. Let's talk about the vegan customer experience, not just the food, right? Vegan experience, like Antonia mentioned, it isn't just having a plant-based item on the menu. It is the feeling you get when you come as a vegan customer to a restaurant or a hotel. And so as a vegan customer, when I look at a menu and I see lamb and foie gras and things that really make my stomach churn in a negative way, I'm losing my appetite. And oftentimes, you can think about this, if you own a restaurant and have a menu, the vegan options are scattered throughout, or they're the last section. And what that does to the vegan customer is makes us feel sad. We look at the options, we see items that look to us like animals and not like food. And we feel sad, we feel pain, and we feel not so hungry anymore. And you can avoid all of those bad feelings by putting those vegan options on a separate page. Another way to do it is to make a vegan section your first section on your menu, or your first page on your menu. So the vegan guest can see everything up front and doesn't have to scroll through all of the animal-based items on your menu before getting to the things that they consider food. Something exciting about having a separate vegan menu or page is that it raises the standard for creativity with menus and allows for diverse dish names. So on a vegan menu, you can have a dish called coq au vin. You can have a dish called Caesar salad. Whereas when you put this onto a traditional menu, you get very confusing listings, right? You have to put the word vegan in front of everything, or plant-based in front of everything. And so you see on a traditional menu, Caesar salad, vegan Caesar salad, chicken, vegan chicken. And we know from menu research at this point that when people are seeing the word vegan in front of everything, it's actually deterring them from placing these orders. When traditional customers are seeing the word vegan hummus wrap, they're more likely to order a hummus wrap than a vegan hummus wrap. And so if we really want traditional customers also ordering these dishes, we need to be creative and do things a little bit differently. So when we have a really exciting separate vegan menu, we don't have to put the word vegan on everything. We can literally call the dish what it is and get really excited about the flavors in the dish and the way that it is created. And we also prevent service mistakes this way, because we have servers watching a customer order from a vegan menu, and it's very clear that it's a separate menu page. So you prevent that server from hearing the word Caesar salad. They will know immediately that it's from the vegan menu and they're referring to the vegan Caesar salad. You'll get better reviews, I promise, because vegans love to write reviews, and you will stand out amongst your competitors. And here's an example. When you talk about vegan menus, you're going to have the words vegan menu in your SEO, in your search engine optimization, and people are going to be looking for that vegan menu. If a traveler is going to a new city and they're looking up vegan friendly restaurants and they can only choose one, then they're going to choose the one with the full vegan menu, not the one with 3 options scattered throughout the traditional menu. Another great thing about having a vegan menu is you can throw a launch party for it, and you can also bring in a large amount of guests in a very short amount of time to come and celebrate that launch, and it becomes a press-worthy event. Vegan guests want truly the same thing as your traditional guests. They just want to see a menu of items they would order. They want to be included from bread basket to dessert. So not just ordering an entree, but they would love to be included and be able to eat the bread if you offer a bread basket. They would love to be able to eat dessert as well as they watch their friends and family eat that decadent chocolate dessert around them and they're offered fruit. Vegan guests want well-trained staff that can provide accurate and timely answers to their valid questions about ingredients and cross-contamination. And that's why we make sure when working with clients that everyone in the restaurant is trained to understand how to speak to vegan customers. And of course, they want to feel that their patronage is valued by your business just as much as you value that of your traditional guests. So how can you get started? Well, we really recommend you start with a menu evaluation. Now, this is something we do for our clients, but you can also audit your own menu. If you are familiar with vegan options and familiar with trends and familiar with the ingredients on your menu, you can look through your dishes and, for example, focus on making some of your sauces, your signature flavors, plant-based by default. Sometimes it's a simple swap from chicken broth to vegan broth. And through that process, you're going to create ingredients that can then be used on vegan versions of those dishes on a vegan menu. Make sure you do your market research as well. Speak to the vegan community. Speak to your local vegan community so you can really see what people want to order. Don't forget about the dessert. Advertise your vegan options, be proud of them. Make sure you're putting them online as well. Don't forget about your social media, and don't forget about putting your vegan menu on your website if you have your menus up on your website. And of course, we want to make sure that food safety is taken into account, that cross-contamination protocol is not just happening in the back of house, but front of house. If you have any self-service stations, we need to make sure that there's no opportunities for a spoon from a sausage to get into a spoon for a tofu scramble. We do offer expert guidance. We have customized consulting. We have professional development one-time sessions. We do have an executive certification in vegan hospitality management for any professionals who would like to learn how to do this themselves, would like to really go through the process of auditing your menu with guidance, not just having a consultant do it for you, but really learning how to do it yourself. And you can learn more about all of this on our website. And of course, check out our social media. Please feel free to screenshot this slide because I'm going to be going and passing it over to Sophie, who's going to introduce our next guest. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Meredith. Very interesting presentation, and it really leads us on to the next speaker quite nicely because we finished up talking about labels and the importance of labeling. And so we're going to have Heather next, who's coming from Denmark and who's going to be talking to us about food safety and allergen disclaimers. So over to you, Heather. You can go ahead.
Hello, everyone. It does lead on very nicely from what I'm going to share. I'll just share some slides.
Yeah, perfect. It's up. We can see it.
Is that better? So I'm head of the Food Inclusivity Mentor. I'm going to talk about how you can talk about allergies and safety on menus. It's a lot like talking about vegan options, except it can have life or death consequences. And just for general knowledge, the most common, most deadly food allergy is actually milk. So there's huge overlap with a vegan menu, especially an allergy-friendly vegan menu, which we'll talk about quite a lot. So what is food inclusivity? Because it's sort of a term I came up with on my own. But as with any minority, it's about including people who are otherwise excluded. It does include a lot of people who are eating vegan options, but anyone with a dietary preference. So dietary preference, I'm going to break down into 6 main areas. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about the plant-based continuum, which is anyone on any diet from vegan to extreme meat eater. But there's all the flexitarians who might be vegan plus or minus something, vegetarian plus or minus something. So it gets very complicated, but we'll talk about that in depth. Then there's also the religious diets, and quite often that also impacts animal products, such as avoiding pork or beef. or other animal products, depending on the religion and how observant someone is of that religion. So even within the religions, there's a gradient again. But there are accreditations for halal and kosher, but some of them are beyond the ingredients and contamination. So I'm only going to talk about ingredients and contamination. Then you have allergies, which is the most important because it's the most dangerous health condition that involves ingredients in food or contamination of food, but also intolerances. Basically, they're still allergies. It's an adverse reaction to something. But intolerances might just be you lack an enzyme such as lactose intolerance, you lack lactase, so you can't digest lactose. But generally, there's a lot of overlap between allergies and intolerances. And even people who become vegan might become more lactose intolerant with age. It's an actual natural phenomenon in mammals to decrease lactase with age. So people generally, as they get older, get more lactose intolerant. But then there's other things like glucose intolerance, which does involve the immune system, sort of overlaps with allergies, but it also is autoimmune disease. And then that overlaps again with health conditions. But people who are avoiding meat, for example, if they were then fed meat, they might vomit. So that's not a health condition, but it's an intolerance of sorts. But if you get into health conditions, there's also avoidance of animal products for cholesterol or for saturated fats. And then other health conditions such as diabetes. So all of those, it gets very complicated in this section. So that's just to try and include everyone as a dietary preference. But for example, people on kidney dialysis might avoid potatoes because they're trying to avoid potassium, isn't it? So I'm not an expert in all these health conditions, but generally most people fall into these categories, except aversions can be quite complicated. It can overlap with health conditions, such as when people are pregnant. They might avoid certain foods, certain smells, but usually it's a sensory issue or a psychological issue, but it can result in physical symptoms. So people can be so averse to something that they vomit at the sight of it or the smell of it. I'm extremely averse to fish, but also plants. You know, I don't like beetroot to a quite extreme extent, but it doesn't make me ill in any way. So that's a very quick overview of dietary preferences. We're mostly going to talk about milk as the most common, most deadly food allergy, but also 25% of the UK population avoid eating milk. And that's just a statistic that was done by a market research company. It's not the vegans saying that 25% of people avoid milk. It's avoiding milk for any reason at all. And then after milk comes egg, shellfish and fish. So actually people don't realise milk is such a common food allergy. So I'm Heather Landex. You've already heard I have some allergies. I'm vegan, but I spent a lot of time in hotels and restaurants inspecting them for food safety. So I'm trained in Britain. You might hear my Northern British accent, but I now live in Denmark permanently. I'm both Danish and English now, so that's quite nice. I've worked in a lot of countries doing this job, inspecting hotels and restaurants. And I've advised thousands of people about food allergies, veganism, and mostly food safety and how not to kill people. I wrote a book on the topic during the pandemic, so I've had widely varying opinions on this, including people who are not allergic or vegan, saying that food inclusivity is very profitable. So everywhere that Meredith just mentioned, where you can benefit from stating explicitly what you can and can't do in terms of vegan options, it's also the touch points that Antonia talked about. It's the same for people with allergies. So if we talk about being inclusive, and we can take any of the hats of all different various dietary preferences, basically, if you can meet basic compliance standards, that means you're not going to kill people. It's not a very good standard, if I'm honest, in hygiene terms. But most companies that are at least more than one restaurant, for example, they usually have food safety standards. So, for example, McDonald's have quite strict food safety standards. They're very precise about where their ingredients come from and those sort of standards. But they're not that good at allergy management because they can't vary what they do very often. They can't make exceptions. Even if they leave something out, it's not to allergy standards. So any company, hotels are usually good at this, because if you can serve someone a meal in a hotel, you also sell them a room. So there's more riding on it. But if you are capable of serving someone with allergies, not necessarily everyone with the wildest, most complicated dietary preferences, but if you can serve someone with a milk allergy, you need to advertise that. So a lot of hotels are capable, but they require that the guest investigates, or they look it up, or they make inquiries, and sometimes they're just in doubt. So if the place they're least in doubt, they're going to go there first. So I do stick to one chain of hotels because I know that I can eat the breakfast there, and it just makes it easier for me and my family if I know I can eat breakfast. But when you become inclusive, that means you're showing off and attracting people based on their dietary preferences. So plenty of places have allergy management and food safety standards, but not many show off and attract people. So that's when inclusivity becomes exclusive. So a family of 4 might only be able to eat with you because you can serve the person with the allergy and the vegan in the family. That works in my family as well. I'm both, by the way. So how to be inclusive? The first thing is that you need to get the information about ingredients and the risk of contamination through the kitchen processes or the supplier processes to the customer. And as Meredith already mentioned, if you can do that in advance, that helps the buying decision. If you consider the dessert and the drinks and all of those things, you might attract a whole wedding party just because you can serve the people who sit on the bride's table. You need to explain the risk, because even though you have all the ingredients and you've labeled it vegan or vegetarian, or you've said what most of the ingredients are, people want to know what's the risk of it containing even tiny, tiny invisible drips or splashes or crisps of some allergies. So someone can react to a splash of milk in their food. But usually what happens when people end up in hospital is that there's been a mix-up in the ingredients. So the most common reason that someone would die from a food allergy is because they've been given the thing they're allergic to eat, especially milk, because they've mixed up the vegan milk with the regular. And again, you go to the customer journey, like Antonia mentioned in depth, and it's exactly the same for someone with allergies or any dietary preference. They need to know that they're comfortable and safe in what they're eating. And you might think for a vegan, it's only a psychological issue, but actually a lot of people go towards veganism because they have a milk allergy or intolerance, or they have something like alpha-gal, which is caused by tick bites, and then they become allergic to red meat. So there's all these animal-related allergies or conditions, so that they need to know in advance that they can eat, because I'm not going to go somewhere if there's a risk I can't eat. I don't want to risk that I might meet a jerk or someone that's going to discriminate against me, or it's going to be a massive effort and I'm going to have to justify myself and my health conditions before I can even eat, or inconvenience myself or the people I'm dining with, or it's embarrassing sometimes. So that customer journey is very important to me before I even decide to go somewhere. So before I even see the menu. And then there's other things you can do to encourage people to tell you about allergies, because if you don't know they have an allergy and they're making assumptions about your menu and contamination, that's very dangerous in terms of litigation and liability. Because if someone has a reaction and they haven't told you, the responsibility should be on them, but it doesn't stop you having to defend yourself in court, waste a lot of time on the whole procedure of prosecution, or even if it's private sector and getting sued, like it's not your fault if they didn't tell you they had food allergies. So a lot of the signage is about informing them what's available, how to use the information, how to order, those sort of cues to help this customer journey along. So communication is an extremely important aspect of the food safety, because you're communicating about risk. And then customer service comes into it. Have you thought about other things like hotel rooms that give me chocolate that's not vegan? Upsets me somewhat, especially because I have a problem with milk. If there's anything to do with snacks, I feel like I'm missing out if I don't have it because I don't know what's in it or the risk of something being in it. So even if the ingredients, I can take a good guess, is not containing the thing I'm allergic to, I still need the information about, is it safe for me to eat, even though it's vegan. So it is really important to point out that a vegan menu or a vegan claim or a vegan accreditation doesn't mean it's milk allergy friendly, because some level of unintentional contamination is legal. So that's really important to know in terms of food allergies, and customers might be ignorant to that fact as well. So a lot of it's about confidence for the customer, but also for the business, because dealing with people with health conditions and food allergies is quite intimidating for businesses in terms of the risk of litigation or the risk of something going wrong. So if you can take that risk and do a really good job, that makes you extremely exclusive because other businesses are a little bit unsure of themselves. So I've used a vegan example here because obviously we're here. But say you have the one vegan, this is what Meredith's already gone over, and they impact the buying decision of the whole family. Maybe if they're taking a colleague somewhere, they get to choose where they're going to eat because they have the most dietary preferences. So this little diagram is called the common denominator. The person that has the strongest preference or dietary preference, the strictest allergies or most complicated allergies, they choose where the group eats. So if you can serve someone that's vegan with milk intolerance or a milk allergy, that's already getting to the end. So I'll talk about it a bit more in a moment. But the reason they attract all these people is because also you can then advertise on Happy Cow or Find Me Gluten-Free, depending if who's in the middle on this diagram. Allergy Companions is a UK review site. So people go there to go, where's friendly for people with allergies? Where has an allergy-friendly menu? And your allergy-friendly menu can be your vegan menu if your vegan option is allergy-friendly. So I'll show you a example disclaimer in a moment from a vegan restaurant, and then you'll understand how hard it is to eat out with food allergies. But then this person that's attracted these people that are eating with them gets very excited when they can eat somewhere. The more complicated their dietary preferences are, the more likely they are to shout about you afterwards, even if it's in the negative. So if you don't become allergy friendly or vegan friendly, you might also get bad press through this mechanism of the network effect. This is a marketing term, I didn't make this one up. But for example, I quite often review on Google Maps. One of my reviews has had 80,000 people look at it. It's not even in my home city. And it's because it was a very, very, very good looking vegan option. So the photos are what attracted people, but it was because I was so happy with it. It was just an amazing experience. And that's what people do with social media. They take pictures and advertise for you. So we have the plant-based continuum, and not everyone is vegan for vegan's sake, and not everyone is a strict vegan. There's a lot of people that are closet vegans, I call them, but I mean a flexitarian, so vegan with exceptions. And a lot of the time, if you stick with the strictest definition of vegan, such as the clean vegan option, this allergy-friendly vegan option, there's definitely no contamination. It's prepared separately, or it's prepared with an explanation of how it's prepared. A lot of people don't like, say I'm the average vegan who doesn't know anything about food safety. A lot of people don't like to hear the allergy information. They don't like to hear there's a risk of contamination. It sounds really disgusting. But the type of contamination we're talking about for people with a milk allergy, for example, is invisible amounts, microscopic amounts, the type of residue there might be if you use the same place to fry something or the same chopping board. So if you have a separate area or a separate chopping board, advertise that. If someone is trained how to prepare it vegan friendly, advertise that. Because if you can serve this stricter end of the ethical vegan, such as you've got some vegan hand soap and all of these things, and you've thought about the drinks and the desserts and the sides and all of the snacks and the free stuff that people get when they arrive at a hotel. If you can serve that vegan really well, you serve everyone on that continuum. And the same applies for people with allergies. But I just need to point out, in the UK, this is 2020 when I wrote my book, the meat industry are actually scared in the UK because 55% of UK households are reducing meat. So some places report that everyone's moving towards veganism, possibly for the environment. But what I would say for sure, people are reducing their meat consumption for whatever reason, because 35% of them don't even know they're doing it, which is terrifying for the meat industry. So you have the same continuum or the same gradient, although there's overlap, because someone with severe allergies might have an allergy to a really remote ingredient, like a tropical fruit. You don't have to worry about tropical fruit in most of your food. But if you have an allergy to wheat, that's the most common ingredient in food. Or if you have an allergy to milk, milk tends to be a flavor enhancer. So they use the milk to carry the flavorings, which would otherwise evaporate. So milk is really difficult to avoid. So in terms of gradient, people with milk allergy have to be really strict about checking for contamination, whereas someone with a passion fruit allergy, although it's not one of the legally listed allergens, it's still very unlikely to just appear randomly in food. Although cows don't fall from the sky, generally, it just appears in food from the manufacturing process. So this isn't like a war of whose dietary preference is more severe, because an aversion might be life debilitating, you know. If someone can't smell fish, or they pass out, or they vomit, that might be life altering, that they can't go certain places. Whereas someone with anaphylaxis to something less common in an ingredient, or that people are less aware of, they might have anaphylaxis, but it's extremely remote that they'll accidentally eat the thing. So that, and people with celiac disease can vomit blood. So that can be extremely traumatic to witness. Whereas someone with anaphylaxis might never have.
And then they said, and then after the operation.
Was that just someone's microphone off? I don't know what that noise was, sorry. Okay, so just to explain, it's not a diagram about who's worst off. It's a diagram about anaphylaxis is quite rare. 1 in 500 people could have allergy that's so severe they end up in shock, in hospital, they could die from it. And then 1 in 5 people has some sort of food sensitivity. So there's the statistics that are reported by the government, although they only tend to focus on the 2 in 1,000, when actually you could serve all these people by having allergy friendliness and considering people with food allergies by providing ingredients and contamination risk. So what's the disclaimer? So this is a bad example. As you can see, there's a few typos as well, and they're missing crustaceans, which is, so shellfish can be broken down in different countries into different categories. But generally, there's these 14 in Europe, where I am. Some of them are similar to other countries. Some of them have fewer allergies, like sesame is one that's just been added in the States. But here they've used the word dairy, which can mean different things to different people. Whereas it should say milk, and then there's cow's milk, then there's no like discrepancies between people's interpretation. But this is for a vegan restaurant. I'm sure there isn't dairy in their kitchen. So I doubt this statement. I just discard this as a person with allergies. I just discard this as nonsense, because they've taken this from a template on a legal website and stuck it on their menu. And then just in asking the manager, if the manager has no knowledge of food allergies, it doesn't make any difference if I ask the manager. So this is the type of thing, I call this a blanket disclaimer. This is the type of thing restaurants, it's like the status quo. They just stick this on their restaurant menu because they're trying to avoid this liability about causing food allergy reactions. So it can be an attempt. It very commonly is an attempt to reduce liability, but most businesses have absolute responsibility for public safety. It might be to try and repel people with food allergies because they're more difficult to serve. It can, you know, if you're going to cook something or prepare something separately, it takes labour away from general kitchen operations. It can be an interruption to service. There's sort of considerations for the business. But repelling people with food allergies, like we've already mentioned, is at least 1 in 5 people, and you're repelling the group that comes with them. And it's pretty offensive. Sometimes they're worded like "get lost if you've got food allergies." So be very careful about how you word it, particularly if you're trying to say we have a separate vegan menu, but there's still some very tiny risk of contamination. However, you can then explain what the risk is, whether you prepare it separately or not. So you might not have heard these terms before, but may contain is the remote chance that something contains, for example, milk. Traces means it contains some unknown quantity. So that probably means it's cooked in the same fryer or on the same grill, those kind of things. But it might be may contains or traces from the ingredients, and it goes all the way back to the manufacturer. It's quite nice to separate those two things, because if something is contaminated when it arrives in a restaurant, there's nothing you can do about it. But if something is may contain, you might be able to cook it separately. So for example, if the fryer contains milk residue, you might be able to cook the vegan option that's now going to be allergy friendly in a pan. So Burger King do that, for example, with the trying to make their vegan burger more appealing to vegans. You can have it in the microwave, which doesn't really appeal to me, but that was deemed adequate because there was a case against Burger King, a class action of sorts, because they were cooking their vegan options on the same grill as regular. So that's how they got around it. but it's not quantifiable. The risk is unknown. So blanket statements do have a role. You do have to say there's never zero risk. However, you don't have to repel people because usually they'll make their own decision about risk. If I have an allergy that's not that severe, I might happily take the risk. I've got an intolerance. I do generally eat vegan options, even with may contains or sometimes with traces, depends how hungry I am and the circumstances. But you have to give that warning to allow people to be informed there's some risk. Oh, something's just popped up about letting someone in. But so all this type of information is very useful for guests in advance of them arriving in the restaurant. So if it can be a QR code or on the website, it only has to be very simple. It can be an allergy matrix. And just to iterate again, if something has a vegan trademark or a vegan logo, or even a plant-based, because plant-based doesn't necessarily mean it's vegan. In different countries, they actually use plant-based in very strange ways, like a plant-based burger, but only the burger is plant-based and the topping is still animal products. So that's dangerous if the customer is confused. But trademarks doesn't necessarily mean allergy-friendly. It can be classed as vegan, just because the ingredients and processing agents haven't increased the demand for animal products. So that part about not increasing the killing and exploitation of animals, that's the significant part for vegans. However, people in general, the public, and even some restaurant experts or even some environmental health officers might mix up what vegan means because it's assumed that vegans wouldn't want contamination, and they don't want it. It just happens to be a practical implication of the food industry being a bit too complex and using milk in too many products. If I use milk as the example, if it's accredited free from what? So there was a mistake where a granddad killed his own grandson because he'd bought free from, but it wasn't free from the right allergen. So the allergen is the thing the person's allergic to. Free from doesn't mean free from all 14. Free from means, so it could be milk free, for example. That means it's suitable for people with milk allergy. And if it's free from animal products, then you have a very, very potent vegan option, which you might not realise. You might just think you have a good vegan option, but you've actually got a good milk-free option, a good shellfish-free option, and a good fish-free option. They're actually very common food allergies. So what is a disclaimer for? It's to remind people with food allergies or other health conditions that are important for ingredients and contamination. It's to remind them to tell you about it. Because if they start assuming, it might invite litigation or liability to the business. It's not to be confused with anything about vegan statements. So send the vegans to the vegan glorious menu. And if that happens to also be the allergy friendly menu, then you're onto a winner. But send allergic customers to this allergy matrix or the list of ingredients and any mention of may contains and traces. And it's separate from terms and conditions. So I've seen this like put in tiny writing between the terms and conditions, such as there might be traces of stones or grit or shell or bones in your food. That's another health and safety disclaimer because they can't avoid it, but it's should be separate so it's easy to find. And I always recommend some icons, especially for milk-free, or if it can be made milk-free, if it can be made vegan-friendly. That's a good way to diversify the menu without adding to the menu. So what's the opportunity, especially if you have a vegan-friendly allergy-friendly vegan option is a very inclusive option. Remember the drinks and desserts and sides and all of the other aspects, but it's an opportunity to show off if you're trained in this, because it's not the norm to be well trained in food allergy management. Who else, what do you offer? Do you also offer gluten-free? Can you have the vegan option made gluten-free? Can you upsell things like, have you tried our new splendid vegan cake? And if there's cake, I usually buy it just because it's a novelty. Those kind of things is probably already been mentioned, but the important opportunity is to ask customers to mention their allergies and dietary preferences. Some people expect to be asked when they go into a restaurant. They like to be asked if there's any dietary preferences, but you can have it as a statement on the menu as well, or you can have it as a statement if you have allergies and dietary preferences, rather than asking someone about their health condition. You can say, then you do this, then you go to our information here, then you have a QR code, or tell your server, you know, you can instruct them rather than probe them for details. So you have to make it easy for customers to ask questions. You can screenshot this if you like, because they'll have a lot of questions if it's not already explained on the website or the menu. A lot of the time, if people are asking about contamination of vegan options, they're either an ethical vegan and it's really important to them, or they have food allergies. So lactose intolerance and veganism are very closely linked. A lot of people go towards veganism if they have dietary preferences relating to the animal products, because they suddenly want to know more about ingredients in the food industry, and some of the things they learn are not very nice about veganism. So that's just how Google works. If I start asking about milk-free things and non-dairy things, then I get to know about all the animal rights issues about the dairy industry. But I think this has already been covered. So I'll just remind you to show off if you have better than the basic compliance, because basic compliance is pretty poor standard for being inclusive. If you have feed safety standards, such as better understanding of your ingredients and contamination. Allergy management means you are capable of serving people with food allergies or any of the things that involve contamination control. And inclusivity is showing off about it and inviting people to naturally come and dine with you. It reduces risk having a disclaimer, but only if you have the allergy information and contamination information, and the process of helping them order and giving them the information in advance. And obviously it gives you free marketing, and being inclusive is very popular with the people that require it. So if you have any questions, I'll be around in the Q&A at the end. I'm Heather Landex, the Food Inclusivity Mentor. Thank you for having me. Have I done all right for time?
Went over a little bit, but we got so much juicy information out of your presentation. I don't think we're upset about that. Amazing. Thank you so much, Heather. So we're going to go straight over to Hayley, who's going to be sharing the next session. I'm just going to put up a little poll to check your general knowledge on the term vegan. So you can just click on the one you think it is while Hayley gets her slides up. Oh, I can see there's quite a few knowledgeable people here. It looks like most people are getting it right. I was actually surprised to learn this. I didn't realize how old the term vegan was. Okay. So Hayley should have her slides up soon. I think if everyone's finished with this poll, up. So most people got it right. Got 59% of people got it right. So, and while we're still waiting for Hayley, we'll put up another one. I think everyone should get this one right after Heather's amazing presentation. I can see the answers going up and up. I think we might have a 100% right on this one. Okay. Yep, everyone got that one right. Well done. Okay, perfect. I think Hayley's ready to go.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Sophie. Sorry, I was struggling a little bit with my
No
screen
worries.
sharing.
We got into some fun polls. Over to you.
So, hi everyone, my name is Hayley and I am the COO of Vegan Hospitality. And today my talk is on marketing to your vegan guests and customers. To start off, I want to share a couple of reasons as to why I am an expert in this topic. The first one being that I have got 24 years of hospitality industry experience and counting. And I also am your ideal vegan customer. I have been vegan myself for 6 years. And although I don't have enough time today to tell you all about why I am personally vegan, it is really important that you do understand your vegan customer. So who is your typical vegan guest or vegan customer? It could be someone that is health conscious, eating plant-based. That could also be due to medical reasons, a little bit like Heather's talk. They could be environmentally aware into sustainability, maybe parents who are worried about their children's future. They could be animal lovers, and if they're vegan, they probably are, but they are probably all of the above. And ultimately, what is really important to remember is that they are the same guests that you always had. They have the same wants and needs as your traditional guest, and they may have even visited your establishment before they became vegan. So you might be thinking, okay, but do I really need to market to vegans? Like, why do I need to market to vegans? Is it important for my business? So I want to tell you why it is. Because it's not only vegans that you will attract, it's vegetarians, plant-based eaters, flexitarians, people who just want to try new things. This will also expand on your customer base, allowing more opportunity for reviews and referrals. Also, because veganism isn't just a trend, it's a lifestyle that is going to just become more prevalent and more mainstream. It may also be because of your brand image. Does marketing to vegans align with this? Meredith mentioned this in her talk as well. But for example, are your values about exclusivity, but you're including vegans? Sustainability, but you aren't thinking about the impact that plant-based diets have? Creativity, adaptability, empathy, all of these directly relate to being inclusive of vegan customers. And if nothing else, if none of this resonates with you, do it for the money. Because if you don't, your competition will. Now I want to explain something called the veto vote. And if you have vegan friends or family members, then you can ask them this, if this is a thing. And although they may not know the official term veto vote, trust me, they will definitely tell you that it is. And you can even ask friends or family members of vegans, and they will also tell you that the vegan chooses where everyone goes. And the reason for this is very simple. It's because, unfortunately, the vegan is the person that is going to have the most challenges when ordering at a restaurant or going to stay at a hotel. So if you do not market to vegans, you are losing out not only on their money, but on the orders from their friends, their family, their colleagues. And if you aren't attracting them, you are not attracting anybody that they dine with or that they go on holiday with. And as you all know, orders equal profit. So attracting versus accommodating. Now, if you take nothing else away from my presentation today, I really would like it to be this. What is the difference and why is this important? Now, as it stands, if you are joining us today and you are a hospitality business, there is a good chance that you are already accommodating vegan customers. And what I mean by this is, if a vegan turns up or phones you, then you say, yeah, don't worry, we can make something vegan, it's fine, just come. But this honestly just brings up alarm bells in our head. We start thinking, well, why do they not already have vegan options? Are their staff trained? And that is both front of house as well as back of house with regards to cross-contamination, for example. It just doesn't give us that feeling that we are excited to come and visit you. And of course, that's exactly what you want your customers to feel. And attracting them is exactly about marketing to them and doing all of the things that we have discussed today, especially related to Antonia's talk earlier about how it is not only related to F&B. So marketing, let's start with the basics. And this reiterates what Meredith said in her presentation, but it's really important to have clear menu labeling and make sure that your menu is shared online. It will be very rare that a vegan customer is going to bother to phone you to ask you if you have vegan options when they can see that there aren't any already listed on your online menu. And what they're going to do is instead just go to your competitor up the road that does have options labeled. So this is your first thing that you need to change with your marketing. Now, there are obviously many different types of marketing. They could be digital, and they do not have to cost a lot of money as well. So I want to discuss a few of these options with you. Your website is a wonderful place for you to market to vegan guests. If you have a food page, make sure you're including pictures of your vegan options there. If you have a blog, maybe do an interview with your chef or share a recipe about the vegan options that you have. You can again share your menu online. Also, your sustainability page. It's not just all about other practices that you have about not using plastic bottles or making sure that the guests don't use water unnecessarily. It's also about serving plant-based food. You could hold an event, launch your new menu at this event, invite everybody, tell the press about it. There's a good chance that you may get interest from food bloggers or maybe interviewed for articles. So this can lead to additional marketing. If you have an existing database, make sure you make use of it. Share a vegan newsletter around. Tell everybody about what you are doing within the vegan space. We all know social media is a really important one. And yes, vegans do hang out there. With veganism, it doesn't only fall into food categories as well. And this is often a misconception. It could be within sustainability or just simply within travel, ecotourism. Think about what sort of hashtags you can use on your posts. Not only vegan food, but what do they like? What is their interests? It could be hashtag environmentally friendly, hashtag our planet. Think about the wording that you are included. Maybe wellness is something that is of interest to vegans, so use that within this. Maybe the word organic. You can also post to different Facebook groups about your vegan offerings. There is a Facebook group called Vegan Travel, so it's a great one for hotels and for lodges to post to, and that has nearly 50,000 people on it, all of whom are vegan or vegan curious, and there's constant posts on there. You could also reach out to influencers within your community, invite them to come for a meal or come to stay at your property, and they can write you a review about what you're doing and share with their online community. This one is really for hotels in particular and lodges, but it really depends. Happy Cow is a great one for restaurants to be listed on, but there's also Vegan Welcome, which is vegan-friendly hotels, veggie hotels, so you can list your properties on these websites, and the newer one called the Vegan Stay, which is more suited to B&Bs. Again, if you're a hotel or you're a lodge, you'll know how important it is to speak to travel agents. So make sure you're talking to them about what you are doing. It's probably going to be something quite unique to them that you are attracting vegan guests. They will think of you for vegan requests. So you can tell them when they come and visit you during their site inspections. You can communicate this with them at trade shows. And of course, we all know that word of mouth marketing is the best form of marketing. And you can ask your vegan guests when they leave, please, will you post a review on TripAdvisor, on Yelp, on Google, and get them to use that keyword vegan, because that is what people are searching for. And vegans love to share restaurant and hotel finds with their vegan friends and family, but also with their wider vegan community. And the reason for this is because it is so rare to find a place that is getting it right that they just want to tell everyone. There are recommendations all over Facebook. It took me just a few minutes to select these that you have up on your screen from different countries and different types of industries. There's even one from a cruise ship here. And they're all talking about these amazing places that they went to. And when I read the comments on each of these posts, everybody's saying, wow, that's amazing. I'm adding it to my list. I can't wait to visit this place. So this really, really helps. I'm going to end off by sharing a case study, and this is a property that is very close to my heart because I'm one of the managers here at a lodge called King's Camp. It's a 5-star luxury lodge in Greater Kruger National Park, and basically everything that I've taught you today within this presentation, we have implemented at the lodge. And although I have done a lot of internal work in staff training, I've veganized our wine list, our rooms, etc. Everything that we are doing is about the marketing, because if we were not marketing to people, then no one would know about what we are offering. So we have a dedicated page on our website called Vegan Safaris, and there's also a downloadable PDF about what we are doing. We also have a database, so we send out information within our newsletter. We do a vegan-related post on our social media every month or two. We also share to the relevant vegan Facebook pages, like I mentioned, Vegan Travel. We ask guests to share their experience online once they leave, and we tell travel agents. I speak to our marketing managers often, and they're constantly telling me that people are so interested to hear about what we are doing at the lodge, and we are honestly inundated with vegan requests. And just by doing these things with regards to marketing, we recently won an award as a top vegan safari experience. So this presentation about marketing wouldn't be able to end off without me, of course, marketing vegan hospitality. And we can help you come up with a marketing strategy for your business. Our services are completely tailored to your requirements. So do connect with us on our social media platforms, or you can send me an email directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayley. Thank you for sharing your knowledge on all that marketing stuff. And also thank you for reminding me about the existence of Vigier Pâtisserie, because I'm remembering a croissant I had there that was absolutely delicious. And now I'm a bit hungry. So going to move on to our next speaker, who's Simone, who's going to be talking to us about vegan interior design and how you can get ahead of the curve by implementing that. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Simone, if you've got
Thank you.
presentation up.
Yes. Good morning or good afternoon to everyone. Let me see if I can share my screen. It's not allowing me.
Have a quick look.
Can you give me permission?
Let me just make sure that you are a co-host. You should be, but let me double check. Yep, it says you're a co-host, so you should have permission. Do you see it? Did it say it didn't allow you?
It says advanced sharing options. One participant can share at a time, multiple participants, and everything is kind of like grayed out, or
Okay.
Did you press the big main button? So the one with the big arrow, the share screen button, not the
Yes.
smaller arrow.
Okay, no, sorry, that must have been the mistake. I apologize.
No problem.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, perfect. It's up.
All right. Let me get this going. 1 second. I think you need to add some more quizzes until I'm ready,
I can do that.
but I'm almost there.
Go for it, Sophie. Let's do another poll.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Okay, we can see your screen.
Okay,
Okay,
so
okay,
good. All right, welcome to my presentation, Get Ahead of the Curve with Vegan Interior Design. Now, you might be wondering how vegan and interior design even go together. In this presentation, I'm going to show you what it's all about and also share some opportunities that come with it. But before we get started, please allow me to briefly introduce myself. As you already know, my name is Simone Aida Bauer, and I first pursued a successful career in the hotel industry, working for about 14 years all over the globe, mostly in luxury hotels. I've also always had a passion for interior design, and moving around so much made me realize just how important interiors and our surroundings are. And at the same time, I was really inspired by the many beautiful hotels I got to experience. So I decided to study interior design as my second career and launched Global Inspirations Design in 2014. When I became vegan a few years ago, I felt compelled to align my business with my values and became a vegan interior designer. But as they say, once a hotelier, always a hotelier. So I'm now in the process of launching a new business called Vegan Hotel Concepts, which is with the aim to bridge the gap between my experiences, my passions, and my values, and also to help hotels around the globe create a seamless customer experience, what we've been speaking about in this conference, for the discerning vegan guest. Now, let me start with give you a little bit of a glimpse behind the door of interior design, what's happening in the world of interior design. Creatives and designers have always been inspired by the natural world as well as by travel and new discoveries. Technological advances have also a big impact on interior design. So for example, in the 50s, when plastic came about, this completely revolutionized the furniture and the design industry. A few years ago, LED completely changed the lighting industry, and now we're seeing lots of new materials coming onto the market that are going to be changing the design industry again, as we'll talk about in a minute. Global events such as wars and what we've all experienced, the pandemic, also have an impact. For example, during the pandemic, safari-inspired and exotic prints and wallpapers and fabrics became all the craze. In general, socioeconomics and pop culture, as well as social movements such as veganism, what we're talking about today, are also having a big impact on interior design. The fashion industry is going through a little bit of a renaissance. For example, luxury brands such as Gucci, Armani, and Prada have recently ditched fur, and they're also starting to use many new innovative materials, which will have a knock-on effect on interior design. So what are the current interior design trends? We're kind of seeing two opposite trends like minimalism and maximalism at the same time. Minimalism has been around for many years, but it seems to be sticking around and continues to be popular, especially with people who are more aware of their purchases and the impact it is having. Maximalism, on the other hand, is all about living life to the fullest. It's about personalized and eclectic spaces with vibrant and joyful color schemes. Biophilic design started in the world of architecture, and it's all about bringing nature into the built environment. So this also applies to interior design. This could be just some potted plants in your home or nature-inspired designs such as organic shapes, curvy furniture, natural materials, and subtle colors. Circular design is also a big topic in interior design across the board at the moment. It's all about timeless design, durable and recyclable materials, and basically thinking about the end of life of a product before even designing it. Vegan interior design is burgeoning and bound to grow. It started in the US a few years ago, spread across to the UK and is now slowly spreading across the world. So what is vegan interior design? Vegan interior design is sometimes also referred to as compassionate interior design, and it focuses on creating healthy environments using sustainable and cruelty-free materials that don't contain any animal products. Now, in the next few slides, I'm going to illustrate the problem with conventional interior design. So I must give you a bit of a fair warning, because some of the things I'll share might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I do apologize in advance, but unfortunately, this is the reality that is hidden from truth. So the most commonly used materials in interior design, non-vegan materials, are fur, leather, wool, down, and silk. Now, contrary to popular belief, leather doesn't only, in speech marks, come from cows, but also from many other animals, such as kangaroos, seals, ostriches, exotic animals, and even cats and dogs. There are also many non-vegan materials that might surprise you. For example, we have paint, towels, dyes, furniture glue, and even LCD screens. Now, these usually contain animal byproducts that they are used as additives, as binders, or it'll give a sheen, for example, in the case of paint. And they can come as casein, which is a milk protein, or animal fats or bones, and so on. Now, what is the problem with all of these materials? Let's first look at leather and the impact it is having. There are 1 billion animals killed every single year for their skin. Unfortunately, leather isn't just a byproduct, unlike what most people think, but it's at best a co-product, but in many cases, it's an industry in itself because it's a very lucrative industry. China is the largest leather producing country in the world, followed by Brazil and India. So that means whenever we purchase anything made from leather, it is almost impossible to know where this leather comes from, who made it, how it was made, and what animal it comes from. It takes 8 cows to make one single leather sofa and requires almost 8,000 gallons of water. That's more than 30,000 liters of water to make a leather jacket. Now imagine how much it takes for a sofa. As we all know, animal agriculture is a major culprit of deforestation, greenhouse gases, and the same applies obviously to the leather production, especially leather tanning. Also in itself produces a lot of greenhouse gases. There are about 250 toxins used in the leather tanning process. These include chromium, lead, and mercury. They are not only very harmful to the environment and obviously the health of the workers in these factories, but also to people living near these tanneries, and they are actually at a much higher risk of cancer. But it doesn't stop there, because leather off-gases for many years, which means that we also breathe in these toxins and absorb them through our skin. 80 to about 100 minks or rabbits are killed just to produce one single throw. In Finland, for example, they use 80 million kilograms of corn and half of their annual herring catch to feed animals on fur farms. In New Zealand, animals, which are mostly sheep, produce around 90% of the nation's methane gas emissions. Sheep, like most people would think, it's not a cruel business, because the sheep aren't killed necessarily for their wool. However, this couldn't be further from the truth, because sheep, especially merino sheep, are bred to grow more skin, so they produce more wool, which results in skin folds. These then attract flies, who then lay their eggs in these folds, especially around the tail area, and it's called fly strike. Now, this can be deadly for the animal, so obviously a dead sheep is bad for profit. So the farmers came up with a solution, which is called mulesing. Mulesing basically means that they cut off a piece of the behind of the animal without any anesthesia, because this way it creates scar tissue and stops the wool from growing in that part. It takes 12 live plucked ducks or geese to make one pillow. Silk reeling uses huge amounts of water and bleach, which end up in rivers, and child labor is still very common in the silk industry. Now, I could go on, but obviously I think you get the picture. And personally, when I learned about all these things, I was very disturbed and it really affected me. And this is why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with my industry and also making people aware of their purchases. And I'm excited about sharing some alternative solutions with you now. So what are some sustainable vegan materials and products? We have products that have been used for many, many years and continue to be used. For example, cotton, linen, tencel, and also bamboo silk and banana silk even. These are used for upholstery, for curtains, for anything made from fabrics. There's also some materials that are experiencing a bit of a revival. For example, natural latex and coconut fiber and kapok. These are mostly used in the mattress industry and for bedding. We've also got materials obviously like wood, cork, and rattan, which are used for furniture making and for flooring. But there's also vegan non-toxic paint now, which is basically the same as regular paint with just without any animal byproducts and much less toxins. Vegan towels have also recently come onto the market, as well as some, sorry, I can't read the last part and I forgot. Anyways, vegan towels have also come onto the market and there's a lot of new exciting products available. Vegan leathers, sorry. So vegan leathers, what are vegan leathers made of? We obviously have synthetic leathers, also known as pleathers. Pleathers basically because they're made from plastic. Now these have been around for many years and personally I never liked them. I never used them in my projects because I don't like the touch and feel, and I think they may solve one issue but they obviously create another one. But luckily in recent years there's been lots of development with regards to new types of leathers made from fruit, for example. Fruit leather is generally made from the waste of the fruit. So for example, the juice industry. We have many different types of fruits that are used to make leathers. And just as a few examples, Bentley recently fitted out an entire car made from grape leather. Karl Lagerfeld and H&M are using cactus leather for their collections. Louis Vuitton recently launched a new sneaker made of corn leather. And mycelium leather, which is actually one of the most promising ones, is because it can be produced in larger quantities, or is being used by Stella McCartney, Hermes, and Adidas, for example. And also in 2019, star designer Philippe Starck designed an entire collection made from apple leather for the Italian luxury brand Cassina. So what are the benefits of natural vegan materials? Well, I think it is quite obvious that they're more ethical, not just for animals, but also for humans. They're more sustainable. They're better for our health because they create better indoor air quality, and they're naturally hyperallergenic. But we'll obviously hear about to learn about veganism in the travel and hotel industry. And as we've already heard from many others, there are a lot of things happening. Although the hotel industry seems to be a little bit slower in adapting to this new trend, much like the interior design industry, things are happening at the moment. As you can see, for example, here, these headlines: Inside 100% vegan rooms, pioneering sustainable luxury. Vegan vacations, how plant-based travels are going mainstream in 23. Vegan travel is not fringe anymore, and so on. And there are many vegan hotels popping up around the globe. This is a non-exhaustive list of hotels, as you can see here in Europe, in the Americas, and in Asia. Actually, as I was writing this presentation, another hotel in Yorkshire, England, announced they will be going fully plant-based. As you will see, most of these hotels are more boutique hotels, but the recent addition, which is the Marriott in Belgium, opened with 139 rooms. And there's also the hotel in the Philippines with 60 villas and suites. Now you might be thinking, I'm not quite ready to make my entire hotel vegan or, turn everything vegan in all of my rooms. Well, then how about a vegan suite or a vegan room? The world's first vegan suite was at the Hilton London Bankside. It opened in 2019, and I personally visited the hotel and stayed at the suite, so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And recently, the Mandarin Oriental, the former Emirates Palace in Abu Dhabi, also launched 6 vegan rooms. And this shows that vegan interior design and luxury are compatible. Here you can see the room or the suite at the Hilton London Bankside and the materials that have been used for this suite. Pineapple leather was kind of the star product, and it was used in the as a headboard, as well as for the chair and some cushions. And pineapple is obviously a symbol of hospitality and wealth, as I'm sure you know. But there's also a very strong historic connection between London and the King of Fruit, which makes for some great storytelling and marketing, as we just heard from Hayley. So the materials that have been used here are bamboo flooring, organic cotton rugs, a vegan menu, pillow menu, vegan bathroom amenities, and a minibar stocked with vegan snacks, vegan in-room dining menu, and it's just making the whole experience vegan. What was the reaction, you might think? Well, first of all, the press absolutely loved it, as you can see from some of these headlines. In fact, 103 articles across 17 countries were written about the vegan suite, keeping in mind that the hotel opened in 2015 and the vegan suite only launched in 2019. The reach was 1.7 billion within 3 months of opening the vegan suite. Since then, an additional almost 1.3 million were reached to date. Every year during Veganuary, as we've heard somebody speak about Veganuary before, about 5 to 8 articles are written about the vegan suite. The vegan suite was shortlisted for the BQF UK Excellence Award in 2020, again giving the hotel and the suite obviously lots of exposure. And the guest satisfaction rate is 94%, exceeding the hotel's target. So if you're still wondering, is it worth investing in vegan interior design? Obviously, my short answer would be yes. And the longer answer is, well, it is very likely that in your city, country, or even region, the title for being the first vegan hotel or first vegan suite is probably still up for grabs. You can make vegan interior design your USP and really get ahead of the curve. You can market your hotel with storytelling using vegan interior design. You will get additional exposure, as we've seen, and press coverage. You'll attract and wow a growing demographic of conscious consumers. And you will add a loyal customer segment that will be raving about your hotel. As it's been mentioned before, we vegans like to share when we discover something vegan, which we love. You can show your guests and your stakeholders that you're committed to ethical and sustainable practices, and you might even get bonus points when applying for eco certifications. And last but not least, you'll make the world a better place, one room at a time. Are you ready to write history? If so, then please feel free to get in touch. You can connect with me on LinkedIn via this QR code. You can send me an email, and also I'll be around later on during the networking session. So please send your questions through. Thank you very much.
Simone, thank you so much. That was so rich in lots of information. I learned a lot, and I really enjoyed that presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So next speaker we'll be having is Megan. I thought I'd launch a couple of polls whilst we wait for her to get set up. So I'm just going to see if I can set this up whilst Megan's getting her slides ready.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I think it's all set
Awesome.
up. Perfect.
Sorry, let me double check. Just give me 1 second.
No problem.
Okay, there we go. Okay,
My
I'm
call
ready.
doesn't want to launch anyway, so we can dive straight in with you, Megan.
Awesome. Hey guys, it's so nice to see everybody and to hear everybody. And wow, the stuff that's been spoken about, it's just been, well, it's been mind-blowing. I don't even know how I'm going to come up and present my stuff. So I'm going to be talking about vegan baking. I am vegan, my family is vegan, and I've been vegan for over 11 years now. So yeah, I get to give you guys an insight as a mom, as a wife, and as a business owner. When I started, I can just say I don't have any formal training. I've literally learned everything as I've gone, and this is kind of going to be revealed throughout my presentation. So hopefully it answers all your questions. So the biggest question, I think, is what is vegan baking? This might seem like such a silly question, but I think we've mentioned it a little bit in the other slides that veganism isn't quite clear. There's so many different kinds of vegans. There's so many different kinds of reasons why people go vegan. And I think sometimes it creates a little bit of confusion of what exactly vegan baking is. But my biggest point today that I want to speak about is that vegan baking doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't need specialized ingredients. Plant-based desserts are so necessary, and they can also be made from like a traditional recipe. And I think if we just hold ourselves to a higher standard and realize that vegans don't just want a fruit salad. We also don't need you to recreate the wheel. We just want something like everybody else. And this is so important because I think a lot of people in the industry become a little bit hesitant on offering vegan options or vegan baking specifically because they think it's so specialized. But if we just take it to like the base level and talk about something like nostalgia, if I think back about going to my grand's house and smelling the smells of something being baked, it didn't matter if it's vegan, non-vegan. I think that nostalgia evokes emotion, which a lot of industry forget about. We want to do something, either overdo it or underdo it. And I think we've just got to realize that, you know, vegan people, plant-based people, flexitarian people, they just want a better option. And that comes down to as well, is vegan baking a trend? Vegan baking is definitely not a trend. I've been in the industry now for 6 years, and I can tell you from where I started, which is this cake here, to where we are right now, it can only have been growing. And the reason why it's growing is because the demand is there. So vegan baking isn't a trend, but vegan baking is also for everyone. You know, you can make something that is traditional and it doesn't suit everybody's needs, but you can make something that is vegan and it suits everybody. And a lot of people in the industry don't want to think about it that way. So for me personally, I can tell you as a business owner, as a mom and a wife, vegan baking isn't a trend. I think that if we just take it to the simplest form and create emotion and nostalgia, I don't think people really care if it's vegan or not. And that's something that we need to look into. So yeah, like I said here, this was one of my very first vegan cakes I did. I was actually asked by a friend to make this cake. I wasn't even doing cakes at this time. It was more biscuits that I was doing, because I guess when you start a vegan bakery or just start baking in general, you start with biscuits. And I was terrified of doing anything cake related. But the moment I opened myself up to seeing that there was a demand for this, I saw that I needed to do more. I needed to up the standard. I needed to be the person that created the change. And this, wow, this opened up a burning fire in me, and I just wanted to do more and more and more for the community. So this is where we are now. This is my page. This is my Instagram page. And the biggest thing that I wanted to make sure of is that this was inclusive to everyone. I wanted my imagery to be beautiful. I wanted people to second guess whether our stuff is vegan or not. But I also wanted to showcase that vegan, you know, veganism has still got a stereotype. I don't know what people think, like we put chocolate on broccoli and call it vegan. It's so much more, and it's grown so much over the years. In the beginning, we couldn't get a lot of the ingredients that we can get now, which obviously limited us quite a lot. But now it gave us an in-depth idea, an in-depth feel of all the incredible things that we can do and we can veganize. Again, it doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be scary. We've just got to start. And you can start with just chocolate chip cookies. I mean, who doesn't love a chocolate chip cookie? So this is our page. And as you can see, we want you guys, and we want the guys that want to try vegan baking to see that it can be appealing to everyone. Like I said earlier, we want everybody to second guess whether this is vegan, because it can be just as good as traditional desserts. So for me, after being in the industry for so many years, these are my secret ingredients to a flop-proof cake, if you should say. The biggest thing is trust, consistency, marketing and branding, and passion. So I'm going to go through these with you just a little bit more in depth. So the first one is trust, and Heather spoke about this as well earlier. Trust is the most important ingredient in retaining loyal customers. If your customers cannot trust that what you're saying is actually true, they're not going to come back, and they're not going to even want to try coming to your establishment. You know, a lot of people will say that vegans have got trust issues, but there's many reasons why we do have trust issues. We think that vegan is just about us choosing not to have meat options, but it can be lifestyle choice, it can be intolerances, it can be allergies, and it can be quite severe if we don't actually address them properly. So knowing your product and your ingredients constantly is really, really important, and being able to answer customers' questions with 100% confidence is really, really important, because if they feel that they can trust you, they'll be coming back. They'll always be coming back because they feel safe within your establishment. So knowledge is power here, and being able to create the knowledge for yourself. A lot of the time in the industry, ingredients change quite a lot. So we're constantly having, even myself, having to check ingredients and make sure that they haven't slipped a little milk powder in there, because now it's just easier to keep that on the shelf. So making sure that you're staying ahead of the curve and know your products, that's really important to create trust within the people that are coming to buy from you. Consistency. This is also such a great one. Consistency is key to creating a loyal following. There's so many times that we've been told something that has been launched. There's this amazing vegan product that has been launched, and there's beautiful vegan desserts, which is something so hard to find. We rock up there and all of a sudden it's not there. Or it was there yesterday, but it's not yet today. And a lot of the time when we speak to people in the industry that are wanting to put vegan options, vegan baked goods on their displays, they don't give it enough time. They'll put it on for maybe 3 months and say it wasn't sold, or, you know, we didn't have enough clients. And you'll see on the next few slides why consistency, time, and marketing all go hand in hand as well. But you've got to give your product time, but it also has to be consistent. It can't be here one day, be great today, but be terrible tomorrow. And then as well, creating consistency with your staff. Again, consistency with your staff and knowledge is so important. Giving your staff the opportunity to be passionate about what they're offering. Know 100% what you're putting in that ingredient. Not let me quickly run and ask the chef, because again, that breaks trust. You want everybody to be excited and passionate, because if you as the owner or the person who has allowed these options on your menu kind of don't really care about them, your staff is going to have the same attitude. And if your staff are your biggest sellers, that's going to bring people through the door. That goes also hand in hand with making sure people are feeling that trust straight away, not second guessing whether it's vegan, plant-based or not. Marketing and branding. So this is also it's something that I think we spoke about on a few of the other presentations, but Why aren't you shouting it from the rooftops? Why aren't enough businesses telling people about their plant-based and vegan options? Why aren't you excited to tell people that you have these options on your menu? Because if you're not telling people about them, how are they going to know that you have them? How are they going to want to come and experience these things? And also, are you marketing to the right clients? Who are your clients? And if you don't have vegan clients, why don't you have vegan clients? Hayley spoke about the veto vote. This is so, so true. You aren't just losing a plant-based client or a vegan client, you're losing an entire party of people. And as vegans, we love to talk about the stuff that we find, and we will become your biggest and loyal customers. And what are you actually marketing? Are you marketing this as a vegan product? Are you marketing it as a dessert that it's got no milk in? You've got to understand what you're actually offering to your clients. And on the next few slides, I did a really interesting Instagram poll with my followers to show something that I think a lot of you will be quite shocked about. So I'm going to just go into that quickly. So I did a poll on my social media. So I've got about 6,000 followers, but this poll was done by or answered by 244 of our followers. And it shows that 60% of our clients are actually non-vegan. And for me, I think that's quite a big thing that a lot of people don't think about. They think that we're just marketing to vegan clients. But 60% of the people that actually come and support us every single day are actually not vegan. And this is such a cool thing as well, because it means that they're vegan curious, or they're conscious about their health, or they just want something really good and really delicious. And it doesn't matter to them whether it's plant-based or not. So you're not losing out on just vegan clients. You're actually closing yourself off to such a big picture of appealing your products to everyone, making your vegan desserts the most incredible vegan desserts, because it's going to bring everybody through the door, not just the vegan clients. So 60% of our clients were non-vegan, obviously leaving 40% of them being vegan clients. So who should you be focusing on when you are creating incredible vegan desserts? And I feel that the answer is it should be appealing to everybody, whether you're vegan or non-vegan. It should be inclusive. This was another one of the polls that we did, and this is something that I can vouch to. If I hear that somebody is offering something vegan, whether they're 100% vegan or not, I'm willing to travel. And majority of our clients said that they were willing to travel 20 kilometers or more. So people want to support plant-based options. They want to come and they want to experience new experiences. A lot of the time when we eat out, you have some really nice vegan options on the menu, but then there's absolutely no desserts. And for me, I feel like a dessert is something, it's magical, it's nostalgic, but it's also something that finishes a meal off. It's something you might share with your partner or have with a little glass of wine. And a lot of the time when it's not included, I feel that you kind of feel that you were robbed from the meal, and it kind of just ended. It didn't end on a sweet note, if I could put it that way. The other one poll that we did was just asking people why would they come, you know, what makes you support a non-vegan restaurant? And these were the answers that they gave us. Educate your staff, which we spoke about earlier, making sure your staff are really excited about the stuff that you're offering. Set a higher standard for your establishment. Like I said earlier, be the most incredible vegan options available, be the most incredible vegan desserts available. But it doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be absolutely delicious, and it can be served with love, and people will feel that. And realize that your clients are willing to pay as well. This was something that was on this poll too. People weren't too fazed about what they were going to pay. They just wanted to know that they were going to get a really great option, not a fruit salad and not an avocado toast. So this is one of my favorite ingredients. It's something that I can still say I'm so passionate about, and, you know, meeting new people through the industry, and a lot of the time speaking to people about allergies and, you know, why they became vegan. And you know, the excitement when people walk into our bakery and see that we have more than one option. And this is one of them, which is passion. So this makes me laugh every time. Let me just go back, sorry. So it kind of goes into what I was saying earlier is, you know, why do you want to offer beautiful plant-based bakes? Yes, you can make money from it and you can use the industry, but you should also be doing it with passion, because it gives so much more to the industry, and it's more likely to last longer. Because again, if you can come and talk to me when I ask you a question about the ingredients and I can really see that you've put thought into it, again, I'm going to want to tell everybody about it, and I'm going to be so excited to try that thing, even if it was just a simple ice cream. And then again, knowledge is power. Empower all of your staff, from your front of house to the person behind serving, to your waitress, to your chefs. Make sure everybody is on the same page. And then why aren't you treating plant-based options like any other recipe development? A lot of the time people are just wanting to put something on their menu, or they're frightened that it's going to cost too much money, but they're not actually treating it the same way that you would do your recipe development for a traditional item on your menu. Why aren't we putting the time and the love and the effort into making sure that you have the best baked good possible? A lot of the time we spend 2 to 3 years recipe developing something just because the industry wasn't ready for it, or we just didn't have the product to do it, but we still spend time doing it. And now we can offer so many different things and people are excited to come and try it. I think our biggest thing that we get a lot of the time is that people can't believe some of the options that we have are vegan, because we've spent so much time putting R&D into our recipes and making it appeal to everybody, not just your vegan clientele. Yeah, that was me. I don't know if I spoke too fast or how I was on time, but I didn't want to give you too much information.
Thank you so much, Megan. That was amazing. I really enjoyed that presentation. And yeah, the final note on passion, I think that you really conveyed that throughout the whole presentation. So that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so before we have our next speaker, I'm going to try again and do some more polls while Zoe's getting ready. So off we go. It's very fun to watch the answers come in. Okay. I think we've got everyone's answers in. Oh no, it's still going. Okay. This is an interesting one. Most people have said false. A couple of people have said true. I think it was Heather earlier on that was saying that it really does depend on the country. So whether vegan and plant-based means the same thing, not necessarily. Some places will use plant-based when there's only one element of the menu or the option that is plant-based. Some people will use it to mean vegan. So I think it is a term that can be ambiguous depending on the region or the way it's used. So how is plant-based not vegan? Well, this was something that Heather was saying earlier on. Plant-based should mean that it's based on a plant, obviously, so 100% vegan. But some people who don't know how to use the term properly will use the word plant-based if there's one element of the option that is vegan or plant-based, be it the burger, be it a sauce, instead of just using the term to define the whole option or the whole menu. So it does depend, and I do think it is, like the term vegan, it can depend on the person that's using it. If people aren't informed and they don't have the correct knowledge, then mistakes can be made. So I think I'm going to launch one poll that I think really ties on to the message that Megan was sharing with us about making things exciting and passionate. So what excites you most about the future of hospitality becoming more vegan friendly? I mean, all options are equally exciting. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer here. Yeah, I think it was Hayley that was saying earlier on that lots of people, I mean, it depends on the reason that people go vegan. It can be for lots of different reasons, but I think especially as time goes by, people tend to become more aware of other reasons, and it just becomes this all-englobing thing. Yeah, all of the above comes out on top here. Then we've got more animal lives respected, more inclusive towards guests, and sustainability as the last one. But most people have replied that all of the above are important. So I think that really shows that being vegan isn't just it's more of a unilateral thing. Jacko is saying this should have discovering new unexplored dishes in the options. True. Okay, so if Zoe's ready, she can start sharing her screen.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Zoe.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to hopefully successfully share my screen. My biggest flaw, my biggest weakness is technology, so hopefully this works. Okay.
And you're up.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Can everyone see that big slide?
Yep.
The whole screen? Okay, great.
For us.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to talk with all of you. My name is Zoe Novick, and I've been in the food system and advocacy space for about 7 years, starting as a grassroots organizer, holding protests for animal and human rights. And my work as a grassroots organizer ultimately led me to attain my master's degree from the Yale School of Public Health, where I focused on social and behavioral sciences and One Health. And today I'm the healthcare program manager with Greener by Default. And every day I get to work with institutions to help them implement sustainable food policies. So at Greener by Default, our mission is simple. We are flipping the norm to make plant-based the default. And I'll just say, when I say plant-based, I do mean 100% vegan. We work with institutions to apply behavioral science to food policy, nudging all diners towards plant-based foods while preserving the freedom of choice. So before I explain exactly how that works, I'll spend some time explaining why it's effective. And I'm sure all of my other co-presenters have given a lot of context, but I'll just spend a few minutes addressing the question of why we're focused on plant-based foods. As Dr. Jonathan Foley from National Geographic says, when we think about threats to the environment, we tend to picture cars and smokestacks, not our dinner. But the truth is, our need for food poses one of the biggest dangers to the planet. There's one sector of agriculture in particular that has an outsized impact. Globally, animal agriculture uses 77% of all farmland and produces 57% of all food-associated greenhouse gas emissions. But it only produces 37% of the world's protein, which is actually the exact nutrient that many of us think about when we think of animal-based foods. So how that works is plants produce most of the protein, the animals eat it, and then animals produce most of the greenhouse gas emissions. Luckily, there are simple and accessible solutions to promote the health of humans and our food system and our planet. When it comes to institutional goals of reducing carbon footprint, serving more plant-based foods gives us the most bang for our buck. It has a much bigger impact than other interventions that we typically think of, like reducing or eliminating single-use plastic, though that is, of course, important for other environmental reasons. And that's because, on average, the greenhouse gas footprint of plant-based meals is half that of animal-based meals. But we seem to be moving in the right direction, as plant-based has been a top trend year after year. Plant-based menu items have increased 800% since 2019, and 36% of Americans report having recently reduced their meat consumption. So who exactly is driving this trend? It's largely young people and omnivores. The vast majority of millennials and Gen Zers are already eating plant-based foods at least 1 to 2 days per week and want to be eating even more. And what's most exciting to me is actually the chart on the right, which says that a whopping 98% of consumers who buy plant-based meats also buy animal meat. So this is actually great news because it means that we don't need everybody to go 100% vegan to make an impact. We just need to encourage this existing trend of flexitarianism among omnivores, helping them to realize that we don't need a huge hunk of meat at the center of our plate at every single meal to be healthy and happy. So this is the core work and core mission of Greener by Default, helping people to choose more plant-based options no matter what your food identity may be. So our program, Greener by Default, was inspired by the book Nudge by Nobel laureate Richard Thaler and Harvard professor Cass Sunstein. And in their book, they examine the profound impacts of defaults and nudges on human behavior. A default is the option that people end up with if they don't make an active choice. So, for instance, I can almost guarantee that many of us on this Zoom right now have the same cell phone ringtone, because I know I personally did not go through the settings to change the default ringtone. People tend to stick with the default or the status quo, partly because it's seen as the more socially acceptable thing to do. And we have this subconscious assumption that if most people are doing something, it must be the right thing to do. We are social creatures, we like to fit in, and the surest way to do that is to stick with the default. It's also just one less decision to make in our busy lives. So a classic example of the power of defaults is organ donation. The European countries on the left that you see in this chart have an opt-in system. So you are by default not an organ donor, and you have to actively opt into it. And of the countries in Europe that have opt-in systems, the highest participation rate is around 30%. The countries on the right have an opt-out system. So you are by default an organ donor, and you have to actively opt out of it. And as you can see here, most of the countries where by default you are an organ donor have a close to 100% participation rate. So that just means that automatically you are saving many, many more lives. As an example that's directly rooted in food, Greener by Default partnered with researchers at UCLA and Harvard and other universities to study the impacts of a plant-based default on meal choice at catered events. And in the control condition, they found that when everything was functioning as normal, where meat is the default, people could request a plant-based option, and less than 20% of people requested a plant-based meal. But when we flip the norm and make plant-based the default, and people could request a meat meal, on average, 2/3 of people stuck with the plant-based default, and 1/3 requested a meat meal. So this is a more than 50 percentage point increase in the number of people eating plant-based meals simply by switching the default. And it really gets exciting when you're working with large numbers of people because you're making an even bigger impact on emissions reductions, decreased water use, etc. And better yet, this also doesn't upset some people in the way that maybe a fully plant-based menu might, because those people who still really want their meat, they still have that option available to them. It's just no longer the default for everyone. So when you combine these two ideas of plant-based foods and defaults, you get greener by default. Right now, just about everywhere, meat is the default, and people have to specifically opt into veg options, which usually only strict vegetarians and vegans put in the time and energy to do. But we're working to flip that, to make plant-based the default and give people the choice to opt into meat and dairy. This way, everyone still has complete freedom of choice. Nothing is taken off the menu, but the more sustainable option is the default. This strategy is flexible and can be implemented in any environment where food is served. It's also cost neutral and can even save money. It's also more inclusive. Serving plant-based foods as the default includes everyone by default. It includes the 30 to 50 million Americans who are lactose intolerant, the majority of whom are people of color. It includes people who follow certain religious traditions that dictate a vegetarian diet or exclude specific animal products like pork or beef. It also includes young people and communities of color who are eating more and more plant-based foods. Black Americans are actually more than twice as likely to be vegan as white Americans, and a third of Americans of color reported reducing their meat consumption in the past year compared to a quarter of Americans overall. So what does this actually look like in practice? I'll talk through a few of our different strategies that can be used to implement plant-based defaults in different types of food service settings. So the core concept of this strategy is to make the base of your meal plant-based and still leave the choice to opt into meat and dairy. So if people are RSVPing to an event like a conference, it's a very clean switch. Just state that the food will be plant-based by default and offer a box to check to request a meat meal. The same way that currently, if you're getting an RSVP, you might have the default being not vegetarian or not gluten-free or whatever, and people have to specifically request those meals. If food is served buffet or family style, offer the plant-based entrees first and meat and dairy at the end of the line, usually in smaller containers, so it's to suggest that it's more of a topping rather than the main dish. This way, people will naturally fill up their plates with the delicious plant-based options that you're serving, and meat and dairy is a garnish. If people are choosing from a set menu, make the base entree plant-based and offer meat and dairy as extra add-ons. This already is really common for salads and bowls where the base is veg, and then you can pay extra to add on your animal protein of choice. When it's not possible to make the base meal entirely plant-based, you can create a plant-based default by offering a minimum 2-to-1 veg to meat options ratio. A recent study found that when menus shift from having 2/3 meat options to 2/3 vegetarian options, selection of the vegetarian options increases by 22 percentage points or 56% overall. And this is because when there's only one vegetarian or vegan option, omnivores perceive it as the special option that's maybe just for vegans or vegetarians. So if I don't follow those diets, I might think, oh, that's not for me, that's something special. I'll leave that for my vegan coworker. But if we shift the ratios and provide several different veg options, we also shift the decision-making process in people's minds. We are now thinking, do I want this delicious black bean enchilada or chickpea curry or pasta primavera? We're thinking about the flavors and what we're in the mood for that day, rather than whether I identify as a vegetarian who would go out of their way to eat that meal. Subtle substitutions is another easy and effective strategy. Serve plant-based condiments, milks, desserts, and breads by default. This is more inclusive because it meets the needs of those with allergies and dietary restrictions who are otherwise left without creamer for their coffee or trying to make a lettuce wrap when they really wanted a sandwich with bread. Nowadays, the products are so good, people won't even notice the difference. They're basically indistinguishable. We actually worked with one university that was trialing a vegan brownie and found that in the blind taste tests, students preferred the vegan brownie to the non-vegan brownie. Plus, it was cheaper for them to make, had a lower carbon and water footprint, and more students were able to eat it. So it was a win-win-win. It's also less expensive. If you're baking in-house, it's cheaper to use oil for cookies and oil for brownies instead of butter. You can also do an oat milk default, usually, or any kind of plant-based milk. Usually dairy milk is the default, even though 50 million Americans are lactose intolerant, and it has a higher carbon, land, and water footprint than plant-based milks. But San Francisco's LinkedIn office recently implemented an oat milk default in their cafeteria, and they saw a cut of dairy milk from 70% to 18%, reducing their carbon footprint by 50%. Blue Bottle also followed suit with an oat milk default in all of their West Coast locations, and oat milk sales went up by 28%. Our next strategy is around restructuring menus. When there's a printed menu, ensure that plant-based options are incorporated into the main menu rather than a separate vegetarian or vegan section. And this might actually seem counterintuitive, but this simple change increases the selection of plant-based items by 56%. And that's because if I'm an omnivore looking at the menu on the right, I see the vegetarian section and I think that's for the vegetarian. So I focus on the main menu. And I probably don't even look at the delicious veg options because I decided long before I got to the restaurant that I wasn't a vegetarian. But if veg options are incorporated throughout the main menu, and especially when they're listed first or towards the top, people are more open-minded and let themselves choose what sounds delicious rather than what they think aligns with their identity as an eater. Our last strategy turns to the naming of dishes. Labeling foods with names that are focused on taste, texture, and provenance increases the uptake rather than labeling things as vegetarian meatballs or vegan lasagna or meatless sandwich. We worked with a software company, and after seeing this presentation, they changed the name of their vegetarian hummus wrap to roasted red pepper avocado and hummus wrap, and sales immediately increased. Another way that I like to think about this is if you imagine you looked at a menu and saw the celiac bowl, you wouldn't order that unless you had celiac disease or were gluten-free. But if you saw a dish that was titled Thai peanut rice noodle bowl, you might not order it because you might actually order it because it sounds delicious and not even think about the fact that it is gluten-free. And the same thing goes for vegetarian and vegan. So now I'll share a couple different case studies from institutions that we've worked with. New York City Health and Hospitals piloted plant-based defaults for their patient lunches. They first offered patients 2 plant-based specials and then tell them the rest of the menu if the patients declined the specials. And they found that more than half of those patients selected the plant-based meals, and approximately 95% of the patients who chose the plant-based option are satisfied with their choice. The pilot was so successful that they are now implementing the defaults at lunch and dinner at all 11 of their hospitals, serving flavorful, culturally appropriate global cuisines that reflect the diversity and preferences of their patient population. They also found that they're saving money, which is equal to almost $500,000 just this year. We also worked with the B Lab on an event, an RSVP event with default plant-based menus, and the results showed that 80% of those attendees chose the default plant-based menu item. So that means you're automatically saving greenhouse gas emissions, water use, and encouraging a more healthful menu. Oops. So those are the core strategies. We would love to work with your institution if you're interested in bringing greener by default. This approach can work in any food setting, in businesses, catered events, micro kitchens, cafeterias, in universities, in faculty meetings, conferences, or dining facilities. We also work with conferences and restaurants and hotels and cafes. So the process, how we work, we start by analyzing your existing menus and then provide a list of strategies to choose from, like the ones that I mentioned today. And once you've selected the strategies that you want to test, we design a pilot to fit your specific goals and food service environment. We then help with data collection, and at the end of the pilot, we can help you tell your story about how much money you've saved, how much greenhouse gas emissions you've saved, how much water, etc. And if you do join us, you'll be in good company, joining a growing number of institutions that are implementing plant-based defaults. You can visit our website, which has tons of free information and resources. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them via email or during the Q&A. Thank you so much for listening today.
Thank you so much, Zoe. It's really important for us to showcase other partners' work, Greener by Default, who is doing complementary work to vegan hospitality for universities and institutions. And I actually learned some statistics that I didn't know about. So thank you so much for sharing. That was amazing.
Thank you.
So last but certainly not least, we're going to have a presentation by Mariana. She's from Mexico, and she worked on this amazing project that she's obviously going to tell you about, but bringing a vegan sandwich to Subway locations, over 700 to be precise. So I'm really excited and interested to hear more about this. So if you're ready to go, Mariana, then we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, definitely. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Let me share my screen first. Okay. Do you see my screen? Do you see it?
Yep. It's
okay.
Perfect. It's up. You're ready to go.
Nice. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm Mariana Isa. I'm the Senior Corporate Partnerships Manager of Elige Veg. It's an initiative that is pushing the plant-based market and its demand in Mexico. I will talk about my experience working alongside the fast food company, the iconic sandwich fast food company called Subway, in adding a vegan option with more than 700 units across our country. Because I get really excited and I get really passionate when talking about our work, I will do my best to use our time effectively. Okay. Now I cannot change it. Okay, there we go. So some years ago, Elige Veg was working to support people in all over Latin America to adopt a plant-based diet. We witnessed wonderful and very inspiring changes, mindset changes in people. Here are a couple of examples. We witnessed how two women, one from Peru and one from Colombia, shut out their butcher stores. They closed their butcher stores because they wanted to do something else for their living. They don't want to use animals anymore in their lifestyle, neither in their living. Also, we witness how persons like this old man, an advanced age, he wanted to transition to a plant-based diet because he cared about animals. So even though we had through our program, we achieved great outcomes. We needed to reshape our focus, our strategy, our target audience, and we needed to start from scratch. So our goal since then has been pursuing and connecting with the food industry and being a professional and a reliable partner to the companies. At first, I was really scared for this new change. I was really nervous. I was a bundle of nerves, and I was, to be honest, every time I had a meeting with my direct reports and with executives of companies, I would really sweat. So I was being vulnerable. I felt very nervous. I needed to learn a lot of things, and I needed just to go out from my comfort zone. So thanks to that feeling of being scary and uncomfortable, here we are, Gerardo, my partner, and I, enticing and advising companies in the development and marketing of products and dishes. So in this chart, you can see our consultancy, and this is what we offer to companies. We offer this consultancy at no charge. And with Subway, we were very fortunate to put our knowledge and our expertise in most of these areas of our consultancy. So let's start talking about our journey when supporting Subway to add the vegan version of the chain's iconic teriyaki sandwich. The teriyaki veg, this is how it is called, is the first sub or sandwich in Mexico, in fact, in North America as well, to have a plant-based meat alternative, or a plant-based, in this case, it's a plant-based chicken alternative. And before this launch in our country, we had the Veggie Delight sandwich, one that has all the vegetables you can. You can add avocado if you wish to pay more for that, and you can take out the cheese if you want it. But at that time, this was the only option for us, the Veggie Delight Subway. So our work consisted on the following: introductions to plant-based meat companies as potential suppliers, several conversations with the innovation, marketing, communication, PR, and operations team to share relevant data of our market study and consumer behavior toward plant-based food, information on plant-based diet, terms and definitions, and how to understand and engage, especially with vegan consumers, and I'm going to talk about a little bit later about that. Nudging tactics and strategic ways to leverage their launch, best practices to name a plant-based dish. In this case, we can refer to that as a vegan dish, and how to include it in the menu. Also, we shared best practices to avoid cross-contamination as much as possible, and also how to amplify the launch through social media, how to manage comments, and how to identify key product attributes to increase engagement. Also, we supported their launch. So we had a teaser, a launch, amplifying, and a sustained campaign. We created social media content. We offered them help with media coverage. So we talked a lot with our PR teams. Some outlets are vegan, but most of them are non-vegan outlets, which is really good because we wanted to talk also to the flexitarians. We also connected Subway with celebrities and influencers to support the teriyaki veg. And also we sent some massive emails to our supporters that talked about this new option that they could go and try. So here are some of the influencers. We have athletes, we have influencers that do follow a plant-based diet, but it's not like a vegan lifestyle. We have also some influencers from the vegan community. And the good thing is that all of them were really, really interested on engaging in this launch promotion. We have some media clippings and social media clippings. We tried a lot to engage with media here in our country. They are started talking about plant-based, but sometimes it's really, really difficult to be in media outlets that we would love to be featured. Also, some international outlets share the news. We didn't expect, for example, to be on plant-based news. But it was a really good thing because plant-based news was tagging in their copies in Instagram. They were tagging Subway US so they could add plant-based or a vegan Subway. So this was really, really good. So more than 70 outlets, and we are still hoping to be in more. We wish to, this is one of the things that was that we proposed, do trainings to their staff, especially due to the high employee turnover, and also because there are more than 78 units across the country, and it's very, very difficult. But we wanted to make sure that the implementation was going to be done correctly, and implementation is the key for success. So we wanted this to be done. They were not interested, but we are still putting our trainings on the table in case they want to. They want to have these trainings, and of course we can have these short video, attractive videos for training employees or their collaborators. So also recording videos is a really great tool. So this is just an image of how the teriyaki bag is being offered. They really tried hard in understanding vegans. What do vegans like? What do vegans is like? What are their interests, or what are our interests? And we work with the operations team in order to try to avoid at most as possible cross-contamination. It's hard. It's especially in our country, it's really, really hard. So when companies are adding one plant-based option or a vegan option, it's the first step. And adding the cross-contamination can be overwhelming for them. So I really applaud that this company, this brand has been doing this at the same time, also trying to avoid the contamination. And they had these green portion trays for the plant-based chicken. They around the containers and metal containers, there's like this green also colored identification that says that it's new. And we worked with the operations team to make this, to place the plant-based chicken at least the further from the animal-based ingredients. This is how it's being prepared. It's really tasty and it's really good since you can be in an airport, you can be in the food court of a mall, and you can find it. So it was simultaneously offered in 78 units. So what do we hope to achieve? Obviously, a successful implementation that can guarantee a good consumer experience, not just a vegan good consumer, but overall the consumers of Subway. After the launch, we want, and we still are working on the visibility of this new option, so more people can know about it, try it, and be familiar with the brand's portfolio, plant-based portfolio. We want the acceptance of vegans, but also the vegetarians, flexitarians, omnivores, and curious consumers. Obviously, we want the teriyaki veg sub to remain in the menu. We want this to be a permanent option. And also we want Subway to keep working on 100% plant-based options. So what about veganizing the cookies? That's what we're waiting. And hopefully there are gonna be some news. So This is what we are aiming for. I want to share some recommendations. Food companies can be potential allies. And I mean, when I say food companies, I'm referring to non-food companies. So let's start thinking about them as potential allies, not as enemies. They need us. So let's start working with them. Negotiations with them can take a long time. In fact, with this brand, it took us a long way. It was a journey of almost 2 years. Obviously, it depends in if it's a small, medium size, or a big or a larger size company. But even though if it's a medium size or a small company, negotiations, conversations can take some time. So just be very, very patient. If one key stakeholder stops or closes the conversation, look for another one. Look for another executive. Don't give up. Okay. Marketing managers, purchasing managers, executive chefs, restaurant managers, public relations managers, the head of research and development, among others, can be your contact. In fact, we started first talking to the head of research and development, and then that person led us to start talking with marketing and communications department, and then the marketing communications led us to talk to the operations team. So it's all going to be working in the right way. If you send an email, if they don't open your email, try calling. Engage in their social media. Send messages through other platforms as LinkedIn and WhatsApp. In fact, in our country, in Mexico, companies use a lot of this, of WhatsApp. They use a lot. Sometimes, depending also in their generation, sometimes they don't open emails. They are like boring. They want nurturing conversation, like nurturing relationship. They want to talk to someone. So here we use a lot of WhatsApp. Update your LinkedIn profile. It could be a great tool for you. So try to be as very professional in your LinkedIn profile, because that's the way in which we connected with Subway. Do a deep dive research on the companies and seek for key information that can be useful for your approach. Are they talking on their website about sustainable goals? Are they talking about nutrition? Are they talking about working with local entrepreneurs? What are they talking about? What is the slogan? So try to seek for that key information that can help you frame your message and your approach. Also, be flexible with your narrative. I have been in conversations with companies that they don't even want me to talk about environment, neither health, neither animals. So sometimes it's really, really tricky, and I have to adjust my message. Here, it was really easy, especially with this brand, because they wanted to talk about vegans. They wanted to talk, some of the executives wanted to talk about animals. So I was like relieved. They trust me, and they would ask me a lot of questions. For example, they wanted to know the difference between plant-based or vegan. So try also to explore how basic you need to start talking. See if they seem to trust you more, if there's an NDA or a partnership agreement signed. It can also protect your work, their content, and your efforts. Consider that this might take time. It can take a long time with their legal departments. Sometimes parties do not agree in all terms. Okay, but try to see if there's at least an agreement, so they can be responsive all along their journey. Also, support your network and let your network support you. They can help you connect. This is also one case. This is, in fact, also there was someone from Brazil that connected also with this same brand. So use your network. Also, if companies are not interested in everything you are offering, try to see if you can carry them out, because they could be valuable. You can keep educating consumers, and that will increase the demand for the plant-based market. You will demonstrate your scope, especially for potential future partnerships, and you are going to be motivating your company with good news, and you can win more allies. Also, if you feel that you need to carry out, it's an opportunity for you to evaluate your strategy and to refine your tactics. It's also to increase your social media engagement. It's also a way to understand your audience and the audience actions, if they are excited to take action. And how do I go back? Okay, and you can also, if you have a contact list, your email list with supporters, you're going to be growing that email list. So at last but not least, targeting vegans as a low-hanging fruit can be a good strategy, but also consider flexitarians and omnivores. Let's also be inclusive with other consumer profiles. Practice self-compassion and patience. Remember that you cannot control everything. Sometimes I get really frustrated, but I needed to understand that this brand had its own agenda and there were changes to be made, deadlines to be adjusted. So you cannot control everything. So be very patient with you, with yourself, and also with your team, and enjoy your journey. It will be a process where everybody learns. And I've been receiving feedback from the brand that they have been learning a lot. So this is really, really exciting and satisfying for us. And become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Just imagine those two persons, the persons from Peru, the women in Peru and Colombia, closing their butcher stores and starting from scratch. Just imagine that 96-year-old man, because of his love for the animals, changing to a plant-based diet. Imagine me sweating when having these conversations. It's okay. We need to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And we need to push ourselves out from our comfort zone. So it's all right to get nervous. It's okay to fail. It's all right if you need to reshape your strategy and try again. And just laugh, have fun when doing what you love the most. And here it is. Hopefully you get a little bit inspired, and I want to congratulate everybody because of the amazing work we are doing all together to push vegan options out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mariana. And I want to give a huge thank you to everyone. Please don't leave because we do have a networking session. But first, I want to just say thank you so much to all of our speakers, our partners, to Sophie for moderating. Today, you have heard from some of our partner organizations and also from the consultants who were trained via our Vegan Hospitality Consultant Training Program. I want to share that all of the consultants who are trained through us act as independent consultants in their region, operating all over the world, and they all are inspired by the services that they learn, and they are able to implement this in a way that's going to be culturally appropriate and directly influencing their own communities. So you might have heard Mariana offers free services because her organization is funded by a nonprofit, which is incredible. Each consultant you contact will have their own way of working with their clients. And the best way to get in touch with a consultant in your region is actually to request a free strategy session, which we have the link in the chat. We'll also send it out when we send the recording, but we offer free strategy sessions. This is something that all the consultants offer across the world so that you can have a chance to speak with a consultant and talk through your vision and goals with no commitment necessary. So we can find out what you would like to do for your vegan guests, or maybe you'd prefer to make more plant-based by default options for your establishment, and we're there to figure out how to best help you in doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into breakout rooms for our networking session. For anyone that would like to stay, I would love to see you there. If you do not want to stay for a breakout session, then you're welcome to drop off and we'll say goodbye. We're so grateful that you are here. We will be sending out the recording to the over 200 people who registered for this conference today. In the breakout rooms, we're going to break into small rooms, and the rooms will be open for an hour but you do not have to stay for the whole hour. Please stay as long as feels good to you. We're facilitating networking sessions, but we're not going to be moderating in every room. So our suggested discussion prompt for the networking is to first introduce yourself, share your name, your location, perhaps whether or not you're vegan or what interested you in actually joining our conference today. And then we would love for you to share your biggest takeaway from the conference. Maybe something that inspired you, excited you, surprised you. I know I learned certain facts today that surprised me. So this is going to be your jumping point, your launch point for the conversation in your breakout room. So now's your chance. If you do not want to be part of a room, then it's time to say goodbye. And it looks like we do have 40 people here who want to join the breakout sessions. So I'm going to open up the rooms now. And I look forward to seeing some of you very soon. You can click to join your room. Just click to join the breakout room. And if you have any issues with it, let me know. And thank you to everyone who's watching the recording. I'm going to stop the recording now.